and welcome to Fixed Ops Roundtable March Magic. I'm Delaine from Hinton Brand Dealerships, and I'll be your co-host for this championship 3-day event. It is our 15th Fixed Ops Roundtable event and our largest one yet, March Magic. And we couldn't have done it without you, our audience. We bring together the best talent in our industry, discussing the best practices in fixed ops and our commitment to raising $100,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society with everyone's help. Also, we would like to remind you about our chat feature on the right side of your screen. So if you'd like to have conversations with other season ticket holders, make sure that you select everyone, not just hosts and panelists. And without further ado, let's kick off March Magic. And joining me on press row is Joe St. John from StoneEagle.
What is up, Kara? I am so fired up about today. We have an incredible lineup coming out. I can't wait to see the content that is getting laid down. It's March, it's mad, it is crazy. Let's do this.
And who are you most excited to see out on the court today?
Well, you know, leading them out today, you got Tully Williams on offense. I don't know if you're following Tully right now, but that guy is putting points on the board. Like, Tully Williams has this sick fadeaway jumper, and I'm telling you what, the energy that person brings is unbelievable. I can't wait to see the impact that Tully makes on this team today.
Now, do you have any Tully gear?
I am, bro. If you don't have Tully swag, like, Tully swag is effectively currency on TikTok right now. Like, literally, Tully swag is where it's at. I got suspenders. I got 18 Tully buttons on them. That's how big of a fan I am of Tully Williams, ladies and gentlemen.
Incredible. And we've also got Darin from BG Products and even John Traver a little later this morning.
Yeah, I mean, you got Darin from BG leading out as captain of this team, and Darin on the field is a true leader, showing people what is up in this industry. I can't wait to see his perspective. And John Traver, the OG, sliding out there. In fact, back when I was in the BDC, I used Traver's word tracks and literally had Traver cards that I filled out when I was making phone calls to customers. That's how much depth of information is in Traver's head, and I can't wait to see the way that he applies it today.
It's going to be an incredible 3-day event, all right here at Fixed Ops Roundtable March Magic, y'all. Thanks for joining me, Joe. Wow, what energy from Joe the announcer. And he's right. Ted sure does have a great lineup for this all-star event. And without a doubt, each speaker will have you cheering from the edge of your seat. And we are kicking off March Magic with a crowd favorite this morning, who is known for his large fan base and countless hours perfecting his game. With a standing ovation from the online arena, here comes Tully Williams.
What a great honor to start off our Fixed Ops Roundtable with a gentleman who was the very first best practice winner back at the early Beverly Hills event. And I want to welcome my good friend, the Fixed Ops Director for the Niello Group, Tully Williams. Tully, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
God, that is so awesome. I tell you, is it going to be an exciting 3 days? Holy mackerel. You have built this thing to be incredible. I am so honored to be on this again. And wow, letting me come up first up. Ted, you are just on fire.
Tully, how could we not bring you up first? Because you bring the fire, okay? You have set the standard, the new bar for fixed ops directors, and you keep continually raising the bar. Now, I got to tell you, and this event is no exception, There are speakers every day of the roundtable who refer to the hours and Tully Williams and how important the hours are. So, Tully, you have taught the industry that it is about the hours. And I thought it important this morning that our audience hear from you again, those who have not heard the message about the hours, and that you take it even another step further for those who may be familiar with it, but we need to get back to the basics, Tully.
Well, I'm telling you, it's all about the hours. I've been preaching it all. You know who told me that? Randy Brinkman is the one that got me stuck on this hours years and years and years ago, and I can't thank him enough. But you know what? Let's make it easy, right?
Let's make it easy. So, Tully Williams, Keynote, the show is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Ted. I am so excited to talk about fixed ops today, and I want to bring up 3 huge pillars of fixed ops that I use at the Niello company that I think can help you at your store. You know what? Let's keep it simple and easy, and let's see how we mark them. But here's it all about. Sell your hours. It's all about the hours at your store. Are you selling it every day? Hold your margin. Let's talk about a simple way to look at that, because who's in charge of margins? And then, of course, if we're doing a great job, we want to grow year over year. So the funnest part of all, the first pillar, it's all about the hours. I talk about it every day I can, is because what does that mean? Do you sell dollars? Do you sell what? You sell the technician's time every day. Every service advisor, every parts person, everybody in Fix together needs to help sell your capacity of time. And knowing your daily and your monthly hours capacity, to me, is the most important aspect of this. As you see behind me, I have TVs blaring away. Those are there to design to tell everybody at my store where there are today. As the Niello company has 10 rooftops, we are pushing this data out to all of our fixed ops departments. It's in the service manager, it's in the parts office, it's in the shops. We're telling everybody where there are every day. So let's start. The most crucial piece of this whole thing is building that forecast. And it starts with the hours per day. I believe a technician doesn't want to work for 8 hours a day. I believe a technician wants to work for 9 or 10 hours a day. So let's start with a 9 or 10 hour per day per tech. Let's make lube techs half. Why do I say that? Because, a lube tech has to run back and forth, do those minor services, and it doesn't pay well. Plus, we want technicians to drive, those hourlies to drive, repeat and referral business, doing those great inspections and great maintenances, because that's what we're all about. And we want a pathway for all of our lube techs to grow into great flat rate technicians. So we want to keep those at half. So where does it start? It starts with the schedule of all of your technicians. And here we go. It's so simple. You count the W's. So here we go. Here's a great example of a sheet that I'll be more than happy to offer to all of you, is that you go in and you put in the holidays, you put in the working time, you put in training, because here's the deal. We want them to train. We want this to be an honest, because if we're going to pay people off this schedule, if we're going to pay people off this forecast, we must be accurate. And this forecast changes throughout the month. Example would be is that we set it up today and a class comes up that we must send our technician to, which we want to do. We would change that W to a T for training and change the forecast mid-month. This is a necessity. If a technician calls in sick, let's make sure we then change that forecast to off. It has to be honest. Now, the great part is we're building this forecast, and now we come up with the total hours that we have for our great world-class service advisors to sell. So now, building that forecast, here we go. The technician, we have 1,075 hours to sell. And I broke it down by each technician because we want to show them how they're doing throughout the month and how they're doing for our service advisors to see. Here is the basis. So, one thing I like to talk about when you're looking at a store is, how did you do last month, Ted? And I say, great. How many? And most what people say is, I did $4 million, $4 trillion. I say, I sold 122% of my hours forecast. That's how we should talk about each month. All right, here we go. 1,075. Now, let's build this writer schedule, because we now need to turn all of those hours into a saleable amount for each service advisor every day. Ready? Here we go. Boom. We make the same schedule, and we now know that those two service advisors must sell 26.2 hours per day. Now, here is something we talk about is, how many technicians should I have per service advisor? Here's what I say. If you're at 10 hours per day, it is 30 hours if I had 3 to 1. Some people say it's 5 to 1. Can you sell 50 hours a day every day? I say no. I say 30 is a great job. That's the reason I like to use 3 to 1. So we have the time to spend with each customer. So now we have built the writer schedule. We have the hours day amount. Now here comes the fun part. We're now going to show them how they're doing. I ask, it's not about the forecast. It's not about the dollars, right? So now let's keep it right. If we have a plan in place, how do we keep it focused? We must have pay plans that work together. I always use the best one on top, parts and service. How many parts and service departments fight every day? And that is something we cannot have. How do we keep managers' pay plan and the service writer pay plan the same? How do we keep techs versus everyone else? Having pay plans structured around your hours forecast is a must. We want our parts counter people, which is so much, their necessity is incredible for us to achieve and selling all of our available hours every day. So we want to make sure those pay plans are focused. So we're working together. The parts counter will jump over the top of the counter and I'll give that part to that tech. Let's get it out today so we can have a green day. So here we go. Let's talk about it. Service advisors, right? Here we go. Boom. This is the first one here is for our foremans and team leads. Are they on the hours forecast? Yes, they are. And as they achieve those forecast numbers, they get that bonus. Do we want a CSI equation? Absolutely. Next is our service advisors. Same issue on an individual plan is, did we sell those capacity? Then that determines the percent of gross I pay on what they write. So now the foremans and team leads and the service advisors are focused on the exact same thing. Sell the hours and get paid. Next is counter people. This to me is one of the most important pieces. Always parts counters are paid on gross. I have never seen a back counter person determine how much gross goes on the repair order. But I do know that a back counter person can make a shop great and can also hurt a shop. So let's do this. Let's talk about how do we help counter people get in the piece of pie and get excited along with us all and help drive those hours forecasts. Why? Because the faster they get quotes, the faster we can get parts and not wait till other part will be in 3 or 4 days. I'll go get that part today so we can get that hour closed out. This happens every day. And I'm telling you, when I hear about it, I tear up. Can you believe a parts counter guy says, holy mackerel, I'll go get the part. I'll go get the part. That's what we want to do. So now the parts person is on the time to get the part to the technician to help sell that hour and get it closed. And last but not least, our managers. And I say fixed ops managers. I didn't say parts and service. I said fixed ops managers. Parts and service managers should be paid exactly the same. Now, if you want to have a less percentage for parts, I'm okay with it. But here's the deal. They want to work together. They're on the same page. We pay on the total fixed ops gross based on our hours forecast. Now I have all the departments together, foremen and team leads. I have service advisors. I have the parts personnel, and I have the managers, all based off of that hours forecast. It gets so exciting. So here we go. The second pillar, hold your margin. I say, who controls margins at your store? The service writers have little bits. We always want to blame the service manager. You know who controls most of it? Service managers have the biggest effect on margin. So let's figure out a way to help us watch this number. Let's make it fun and chase a KPI that we would love to chase. Here we go. Who controls it? Management. Writers' discounts. Yes, it does affect it, but it's a small amount. We want to discount only through the discount program and not use that chain sale amount. As you know, with rentals and with CDK, there's a chain sale amount. We want to stop and turn that off. And here's the best part of that. The service writers will be 100% okay with it. What else holds your margin? Technicians. They're expensive. God bless America. Let's pay them. Let's hold our margin and stop discounting so we can keep that margin up. So let's how we do this. Here we go. Let's make it fun. First, break out your CP labor gross into 3 categories. I feel there's 3 categories in customer pay. First, repair, the most important. Full margin. We are not practicing on automobiles. We are factory trained and training our technicians every day to make sure we do that great job. Why should we discount when we have it? Now, we want to make sure that we're competitive, but we don't want to discount. Next, maintenance. This should be the most important because you know what? Maintenance is driving repeat and referral business, which is the business that we're truly in. And we want to make sure that we are priced right. So I don't want to take away margin away from repair. Oh, you have to go for that effective labor rate. Baloney. Let's look at all 3 and hold margin on repair, but maintenance, we're going to be competitive. That's brakes, that's services, that's oil changes, that's anything that involves that. So we have the margin separated. So we're chasing the right thing. And last but least, competitive. As my good friend David Boyle talks about tires, I am all in on tires. But is there margin in tires? Hell no, there's no margin in tires. But if we're truly in the repeat and referral business, tires is what keeps the customer in that service drive. So now we have the breakout of all 3 categories. Let's take a look at it. What do we do next? List out your op codes. Now, some of us think op codes are fun, and they have thousands and thousands of those. But ask yourself, how many op codes do you really need? Because we want to set up the op codes to be repair, competitive, and maintenance. We want to separate those out. Next, set up your discounts for all those 3 categories. We want them to discount. If I make a mistake on a repair order, I want to put it as a discount and show the customer, Mr. Customer, I screwed up your estimate. I'm going to give you a discount. Would the customer be thankful? Absolutely. But a lot of times what we do is we change the sale amount just to make it come out right, which I don't understand why. Why do we want to do that? We want to make sure. So setting up the discounts for all 3 of those categories. Stop using this change sale amount. Please, please, please run your RO detail and look at your ELR per line on those repairs. Because here's what we want to chase, ladies and gentlemen. It is the $0 club. And when I mean $0 club, it is fun because what we're comparing is this: your door rate against your effective labor rate repair. Because I'm taking out all of the discounts, then there should be a virgin rate of $0 against the thing. Make it a contest. As we're doing here this month, we're going to have a contest about, are you in the $0 club? That means All of the repair goes in. We're not changing the sale amount. And if we are going to discount, it will go through the discounting program to show it. Because here's what we got to talk about every day. Who is in the $0 club? Make it a big deal. I want your general manager to go out there and say, congratulations, Service Advisor 1, you sold your capacity of hours and you are in the $0 club. Show them, show your riders, how can they make more money for them and their families by not always discounting a special repair. Now, our third pillar is this, year-over-year growth. Because why? We are always in one business, which is repeat and referral. And if we are not going year over year, we are losing that number. Because you know what the real number is, really? It's all about retention. And retention is the hardest number to manage. I am very blessed that my good friends at X-Time give me a retention number for all of my brands that is always done the same. So we have a real number. It's a little delayed, but we can really monitor and push those retention and CSIs. Because you know what? What does CSI really stand for? It stands for this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, customer supplies income at your store. Because without customers, we have absolutely nothing. Here we go. All fixed pay plans must have that CSI in place. One day, I hope that we can go to retention number. But last but not least, is your store culture customer focused? When I mean this, everybody says, oh yeah, we are. But if some customer is having a problem, would a porter, would a detailer, would a service writer or service manager or general manager run out there and say, whoa, 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 let's make it right for you? This is being customer focused. It starts with your dealer. Our dealer is invaluable about making sure we're customer centric. We are customer focused at our store. As we've been in business for 100 years, it's not because we have bad CSI. Are you truly a believer? If you're not a believer, don't be fake. You must believe you're in the repeat referral business. You must believe customers every day. And when your driveway is backed out to the driveway, don't get cocky. Don't get cocky at all, because we do. We want to make sure we're staying focused, and every customer is a lifesaver. So here we go. The third pillar is retention and CSI. I push the retention number, which is usually delayed a month or two as a store. But when you really are CSI centric, we're talking about pushing it out for all technicians. Fix it right the first time. We're pushing it out for all service advisors, and we're pushing it out for the store itself. These are on the televisions. These are being pushed out to all of our public every day. So here's the exciting part, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about the things to watch, the percent of hours, your forecast. This is a must. Are you talking about this every day? When you look at margin, let's make it easy and simple. Be in the $0 club. Make sure we're showing the right amount. Make sure we're holding that and using the discount. And finally, because we're in the repeat and referral business, are you watching your retention and CSI number? Simple ways to help you make it. Again, if you have any questions, please call me. I cannot thank you enough for being this great honor. Ted, wow, how exciting it is to be up first for the next Fixed Ops Roundtable. Woo!
Tully, what an incredible way to start this whole conference, this day with you. Tully, I took a whole lot of notes. Now, by the way, while it's up there, so our audience can reach out to you, right, with your advice, your help, because you're a great mentor to our audience. And your contact information is up here. I got my Tully button on. I see as you do as well. You know, I don't know. Are you a football fan, Tully?
A little bit. Yes, I am.
A couple weeks ago, we had the Super Bowl. And prior to that, we had some great playoff games. It was an amazing stretch of games we went through. And I just figured it out, Tully. And I mean this with all due respect in a very good way. You, Tully Williams, you are the John Madden of fixed ops directors, because in the way that you lay it out, simple, and boom, you tell us what's happening, what to look for, how to measure it, who to hold accountable. Tully, I can't thank you enough.
Wow, that's an honor. John Madden to fix. I'll take that every day of the week. Ted Ings, I just want to say thank you so much. We needed you so bad, and you are bringing the limelight to fixed ops, and you're making it fashionable. You're making it sexy. I tell you, all of us here cannot thank you enough for all you're doing for us. I truly thank you so much.
And it's obviously mutual, Tully. And I also want to thank that fella I met 15 or 16 years ago over at John Anderson's Courtesy Chevrolet, because I don't know what you did with him, but this Tully Williams is certainly dynamic, energetic, and you are the star of the show. Our keynote speaker, everybody. And Tully, we're going to see you later in the show, from what I understand. You're coming up, I think, on a couple panels, so I look forward to that as well.
Thank you so much, Ted. Tully
Williams, the Fixed Ops Director, our keynote speaker this morning here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Please welcome the President, CEO, and Chairman of BG Products, Darin Greseth.
Thanks, Ted. We're grateful for the opportunity to be part of the Fixed Ops Roundtable again. I'm excited to show you why BG Products is the ideal partner for dealerships around the world. For 50 years, BG has led the industry with innovative solutions to automotive challenges. But it takes more than great chemistry to be the industry leader. Today, we have over 50% of the market share among new car dealers in the United States. In fact, an independent study found that 5 out of 6 U.S. dealerships choose BG products over the competition. Our integrity, dedication, and investment in people are at the heart of our continued success. BG maintains the highest standards for quality assurance, environmental management, laboratory competency, and health and safety management through our ongoing certification with ISO. Our BG Proving Ground experts are dedicated to field support and advanced automotive testing. The facility includes 9 full-service automotive bays and 3 dynos, which provide real-time data. This comprehensive testing fuels our constant drive toward innovation. From service and parts managers to service advisors and shop technicians, BG is committed to the ongoing training of automotive professionals. Award-winning digital training solutions like BG Certified, the BG Tech app, and the BG Advisor app are available 24/7 in the palm of your hand. BG reps get first-hand experience through our internal training program called BG University at our headquarters in Wichita, Kansas. These reps in turn provide comprehensive training to your staff in person right on your service drive. 30 miles away, sitting on 40 acres in El Dorado, Kansas, are BG's manufacturing facility, distribution center, and tools and parts warehouse. BG's custom-built, one-of-a-kind manufacturing facility spans the distance of 3 football fields and is where high-quality BG products are manufactured and packaged. Just south of Wichita, in Derby, Kansas, our BG Automation Division and Certified Machine Shop manufacture the BG tools and equipment that are a crucial part of each BG service. BG doesn't stop in Kansas. We provide what no other company in our segment can. Dedicated, full-time BG experts in dealerships across the world on a weekly basis. Our BG distributor network spans the globe and is supported by a hard-working corporate team in the Midwest. With award-winning training, unbeatable customer retention programs, and accessible local BG reps, we ensure that BG distributors have everything they need to support you. BG is your partner beyond products.
This evening brings many people together, fully aligned with one common mission and vision.
The Light the Night event is an opportunity to celebrate survivors, to remember those who have been lost to cancer, and to recommit ourselves to the fight against cancer.
As a cancer survivor, I feel that Light the Night is very important. This event truly gives survivors hope.
When you see these survivors doing this walk, it shows you why you're here and why you need to continue to do better to find that next cure.
As Tedding's Fix Stop teams are warming up this morning, we would like to take a moment to ask everyone to please pull out your phones and scan the Fix Stop's Donate QR code as we are raising funds to contribute to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. There is no community more charitable than the retail automotive community with all of our great dealers and partners. Our next guest has a playbook that's unlike any other coach you've ever seen, and his offensive strategy will stand out during this next quarter. Please welcome our next player to the court, John Traver, the CEO of Traver Connect.
Returning now to the Fixed Ops Roundtable is a great friend of the community. It's John Traver, the CEO of Traver Connect. John, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, so good to see you. Always our pleasure. And thank you for having us back. We're excited about this event.
John, we're excited about you and all that you've got going in the Traver Connect world with BDC. And also, I know that you're excited about this theme of March Magic because we've talked about that. And John, I got so much out of the last event when you talked about some of the basketball themes. And I really like the way you're going with this. So, again, great job on putting this together. And congratulations to you, by the way, on all the success that Traver Connect is having with dealers in the industry, especially right now.
Yeah, we appreciate your partnership. We appreciate our partnerships with our dealers. It's funny, after we did the November show, you reached out and we talked about the triangle offense with the Bulls. And you said, can you go deeper? And I said, Ted, we can go farther. And you said, man, I would pick up where you left off. So everybody, based on Ted's leading, I'm going to follow it, and we're going to go there today. We're going to go a little deeper.
Let's go.
Well, as Ted said, March Magic is here. And if you go back, if you were with us in November, just a quick refresher. If you weren't, we're going to go real quick. But it was the end of the year, 2021. I was looking back on the year, thinking about, what had happened. And of course, that had me look back to 2020 and how much better of a year 21 was compared to 20. Well, the highlight for me back in 2020 was May, when ESPN chose to play the Bulls dynasty and that whole documentary piece. Of course, this guy, we know who this guy is, and hardware is no stranger to him and Phil, and that was an incredible dynasty. But there was something about that Bulls team that some people may or may not know. They ran an offense called the triangle offense, and the triangle offense essentially had three players involved at all times. And I found this to be very unique. Tex Winter had brought the offense in. Sometimes Jordan was part of the triangle. Sometimes Michael was outside of it. And what's interesting about the triangle is I'm going to parallel it to fixed operations and what's going on in your store today. Very much like your leadership and your involvement in fixed operations, this offense had three primary things they were trying to accomplish. One was they wanted to be efficient. Every time they touched the ball, just like you, with every customer interaction, you're trying to maximize that interaction. You're trying to drive experience. And then they were trying to get the best shot. They weren't just going to be a three-point shooting team. They wanted to play at the rim, as they would say. They wanted the best possible shot. And I would think that you would too. And then even though this offense was as successful as it was for a number of years, you realize they had the best player in the entire game on their team. They could have just ran everything through that one guy, Michael Jordan, but they didn't. And so what I want to do real quick is kind of set the stage and show you the similarity of that Bulls triangle offense and an offense that really could and should exist in your store today around service. And it's going to be around your BDC. So with Phil, it was like maximize efficiency, right? And how is that different than what you and I are doing in service every day? We want to maximize every touch we have, whether it's a call or it's a face-to-face. We're trying to make an impact with each touch. And for you, that's going to be inbound calls. It's going to be outbound opportunities, maybe dealer maintenance notifications, connected car, drive-ups, digital, you name it, right? And the reminder, I think Tully Williams does a great job of this. He reminds us often that this is a repeat and referral business. Yes, it has a transaction baked into each repair order, but I was with some people recently and the concept was brought back to me. Is it really a repair order, Ted, or is it a retention order? If we change the way that we look at the RO, this is our chance to keep and to continue. So they wanted the best shot possible. To me, I think for you, the best shot's going to be a shop that's loaded with preset appointments. It's shop loading at its most basic level. You say, how do I do that? Well, there's 15 different online schedulers available to you to preload. Appointment coordinator concepts that you can utilize to centralize and load that shop. And then last but not least, the Bulls weren't dependent on just one person, and your offense shouldn't be either. If you're a great leader, that's great. Great leaders know how to duplicate themselves. They understand transference, and they know how to move that into a system. And in this case, I'm going to highlight a service BDC system. So Ted, you asked, and here it is. I'm going to go a little deeper this time, though, and I'm going to shed light on a few areas I didn't touch on in November. So the 3 T's, if you're thinking Traver Connect, think the 3 T's around the triangle for your triangle offense for your service BDC. 1 is touch. It's touch. And I'll unpack that in a second. 2 is time. It's the element of time. Well, whose time are we talking about? I'll shed light on that. And last but not least is the till. How does it affect cost? How does it affect income and revenue? And so the 3 T's should exist in every one of our service BDCs. It's sitting there in your service department right now, even if you don't have a service BDC. So let me kind of shed light, unpack each of these for you and see if I can't give you something to take back to the store. So we'll start with touch at 12 o'clock, top of the triangle, right? How many of you guys appreciated Extreme Makeover and Ty and the work of the teams that would go in and change somebody's life, right? I love the part at the end of each show where the work is done and the crowd and all the volunteers are there and they got the signs and they got the chant and they're chanting, move that bus, move that bus. Well, I would tell you that touch starts with move that bus, but the words are different. We're going to say catch the call, catch the call. That to me is where it all starts. More than 3/4 of your retention orders or repair orders are going to start with a phone call. So now, if you're an outlier and you figured out how to digitize that and it's only a smaller number, whatever that number is, congratulations, that's great. The reality is for most, the phones are still a big part of what you're going to have to overcome. So we're going to catch the call. The second piece, once we've caught the call is, well, let's not get too far. We're missing some of those calls. You got 10 different tools, folks, that you can use to track missed calls, time of day, numbers, etc. But I do have some good news for you. It's not just us. It's not just automotive. In fact, of the top 6 or 8 industries, man, I mean, there's a half a dozen that are way worse than you and I are. But here's the bad news. The bad news is we're still missing 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 4 that are either being offlined, on hold too long, or they're getting transferred to the wrong place. And at that point, the customer gets fatigued, not getting to where they need to get to. So we still have a ways to go in automotive. So with touch, the third piece is what I call when you catch them, you got to be H, F, and K. And let me unpack that for you. H stands for helpful. We teach it here. We teach it in the stores. So here's the deal. You said, well, of course you got to be helpful. But listen, gang, we're not helpful. Our people cannot be helpful unless what? Unless we've trained them how to help. So being helpful on these calls, if you listen to your calls and they don't sound helpful, that's a function of training. That's a function of learning. And I would say the key 3 letters in those 2 words is ing. It's plural. You got to stay at it. So helpful is 1. 2 is friendly. And I would say it's not as sweet of a world out there all the time. Customers, I know this is going to shock you, customers are not always nice. But so you got to put people in this spot that have rhinoceros skin, 2 inches thick, and it doesn't require the world to be nice to them for them to be nice and patient with it. So to me, friendly is the second element of touch. And then the third is kind. And when I think of kind, Ted, I think of the Ritz. I think of ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. If you ask where the restroom is at a Ritz-Carlton, they'll never point and tell you. Never. They'll always say, right this way, sir. Right this way, ma'am. As I like to say, you get to the edge of the door and say, I got it from here. So to me, what are you doing in these calls that's kind? What are you doing that you don't have to do? Do you update records? Do you do a time mileage recommendation? Do you use words early in the call that really differentiate your reception of them calling? These are all opportunities that are sitting there with touch. So now there are a few obstacles real quick. I want to remind you the macro, because I've worked on the front end of the store for decades, grew up there, and I understand fixed. So what I would say is this: about 1 in 4 calls to the store when it hits the switchboard are for sales. About 3 in 4 are for fixed. So about 30% of your calls are going unanswered. Like I said, hold times, wrong transfers, right? And for years, it was less than half were ending up in a scheduled appointment, which, you know, to me, the difference between sales and service, a sales call's like squeezing Jello, maybe, right? You can't squeeze too hard. Whereas a service call, well, you almost got to be good to screw this up, because they're calling to schedule an appointment almost certainly if it's an appointment related call. But what I've seen is I've seen us get better as an industry. So I want to show you the trend. 2015 national average was 35% conversion of appointment related calls in service to appointments. By 2019, it was 52% nationally. But what I want to tell you is that of all your appointment related calls, you don't want to fall below 80%. You say, well, John, why would it only be 80 if it's appointment related? Well, probably backlog. Some of you guys are going to have backlog where you can't get the customer in for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and the customer might be slow to commit. So that's not yet a confirmed appointment. And so I'm just giving you numbers that I've kind of watched and learned with millions and millions of calls happening here for a decade plus, that this is kind of a good rule of thumb for you. So that's touch. That's the top. Now time, we got to hustle. Time is, well, there's 3 different components of time. Number 1 is the customer's time. So if your BDC agents they're not asking and offering in a kind way to go beyond just the bare minimum of what that customer's calling in on. They're calling in on a tire rotation, an oil change. We should say, certainly, I can help you with that, Ted. Let me do this for you too. Let me check and see if there are any open recalls or recommended maintenance, so at least you know. Key phrase is, so at least you know. This should be systematized. It should be automated. It should guide the agent through it. But now what I'm doing is I'm thinking of their time. Let me sort of unpack this. First of all, if you do this, more than a third of customers will say yes to whatever it is that's due. So this, even though this sounds like this is about selling, it's really not. It's about their time. Because what happens is, if you don't TMR, if you don't do a time mileage recommendation on the call, and you only do it in the drive, now that your advisors have time to walk the vehicle, I like to say it's Humpty Dumpty time, right? This is literally where when they talk to the person, the coordinator on the phone, and they said tire rotation and oil change, and that's all we did. We just order took. And they say, oh, by the way, how long will that take? We say, oh, it's about an hour. And our system says recommended time typically about an hour. And sure, we even soften it up a little bit for you so we don't lock ourselves in. But then they get to you in the drive, and you walk that vehicle, Ted, and you say, John, 36,000 miles, I definitely can do the tire rotation and oil change. Here's the thing, you're also due for your 30K, and the rotation and oil change is part of that. I recommend we do your 30K while we have it in. Maintenance is cheaper than repair. And I say, Ted, can you do that in an hour? And if we're being honest, now is when Humpty Dumpty time starts. Now we're trying to pick up the broken pieces, trying to figure out, do we have a tech that we can move this to? Can we jump through hoops? Do we mislead the customer? There are all these things that begin to happen. So to me, time, it starts with the customer's time. You should be doing this in the calls. 2 is advisor's time. Look, we want them walking vehicles, having the conversation. And to me, the worst place to have your calls going is the drive. Not because the advisors don't know what they're doing. They've forgot more about service and scheduling appointments than most of us will ever want to know. That's not the issue. Some of you might even disagree with that. But I'm just making my case that my issue is not the advisor. My issue is the advisor's day. It's their time. It's their task list. It's massive. So what you want to do is centralize calls. I don't care if you put them on your roof with a pup tent, but get the calls out of the drive. You say, I want to build a BDC, or I want to outsource to a partner. Great. Both of those work. In fact, you could sandwich the 2 together and make it work. It's addition by subtraction, Ted. You literally are giving time back by taking those calls out of the drive. About 2+ hours per day per advisor, where they got time to have a conversation, talk about the soccer balls in the back seat, who's the soccer star, and build rapport and talk about what the vehicle needs on this visit. As our buddy Tully always says, it's about the hours. So, what happens here when you give advisors time is they got a chance to find maintenance items. What's the impact? Is it a half an hour, Is it an hour? Is it more? So you just see, it's the old axiom, right? It's time is money. So the last piece is, speaking of Tully, here's our buddy. When we think of him, we think of that one word, hours. He does such a great job of making a case for the impact of hours in its relation to productivity, and also ties it back into a repeat and referral business. So the question is this: what if we look just at hours and the two ideas I just gave you with time, and you had the option of growing the store a half an hour in RO, 40% of your ROs from just time mileage recommendations to your BDC, or calls are now out of the drive, so advisors have time to sell, and you're raising in another half hour. What if you had a 1,500 RO store, because that's the average nationally, and just one of those two, you had a half an hour impact on those 1,500 ROs. So let's just say $100 ELR, effective labor rate. At $50, I had to calculate this a few times, Ted. It's 75 grand in customer pay. Just that half hour, just by moving who's doing what in your offense, you're looking at almost $1 million in customer pay at 50% gross margins, almost $500,000. That's how powerful time is used properly with all the opportunities we have coming through the drive every month. Ted, here's your favorite, Till. I got a couple things to show you here quick. One is, it always starts with Till starts with hours. So let me show you this. I'm gonna give you a new concept. So you start with your hours of coverage. Every store, like this store, is a bell to bell, 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, 9 hours on Saturday. That's a full week. Many stores aren't even close to this, right? So what you want to do is look at your store and say, how many hours a week are we open? This store is 69 hours a week. There's 52 weeks in a year, 12 months. That's 4.3 weeks a month. So 69 times 4.3, 296. So we say, okay, what do we got? We're going to put some people in on the phones. We're going to centralize our calls. What are people paying? This is what they're paying right now, Ted. 25 to 45, 25 to 65, 12 to 20 an hour. Depending on where you live and where you look, this is what you'll see for a service BDC appointment coordinator. Okay. So what I did is, I want to show you something. We're going to take those hours. Okay. And the first question our partners are going to ask is, hey, John, do we need one person? Well, let me ask you something. Or do I need two people? Or do I need a whole team of people? Well, here's the thing. If you're somewhere in between, let's say a 3 BDC agent store, the first thing you're going to realize is a full-time person, if they're there for the full week, 40 hours is not going to cover 69. You're going to need more than one person if you're going to cover all those hours. You go, well, I don't know if I'm going to cover all those hours. Oh, so you're going to send the calls back to the drive then. See, this is developing a strategy and realizing how many hours you're going to cover is going to be part of what this is really going to sound like to customers. One person can only cover 172 hours a month. They're going to see you need more than one. The number of ROs will dictate the number of people you need, and we certainly can help a store figure that out. That's not hard. Okay, so I want to finally introduce cost per hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we did a minute ago. We're going to say, okay, if somebody's working 40 hours a week, we looked at those 3 recommended pay grades that were out there, and we see about $18 an hour. We're going to pay our benefit load. That's our share of taxes and benefits. We're really spending about $21.60 an hour, $3,750 a month, Ted, per person, 45 grand a year. So if I have 2 people, I'm spending 75 grand, 7,500 a month, 90 grand a year. There's 3 and there's 4. And those numbers add up quick, but this is what I want you to see. Look at your CPH. Your CPH is 43 to 90 bucks an hour. And that's the number that we got to overcome. So what I would say to you is a virtual BDC, when you combine it with an on-site BDC, can help you. The first thing you'll see is the blue represents hours that typical virtual BDCs can cover. They can cover all your open hours. The case of that 69-hour store, these guys are going to be open more than that store is even open. So they're there before and they're there after. You take their cost, hypothetical partner, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9, 6 to 6 on Saturday. Some are open on Sunday. So you're open 69, they're going to be open 87. You pick up 20 additional hours of coverage. Maybe they're open 296. That virtual is going to be open almost 400 hours. So the green is kind of where your people are covering it. And that's where I would staff your staff. And then the blue would be your virtual. You kind of layer it. And now the question is, what does it cost? Well, you can take CPH, and whether it's a small, a medium, a large, medium. These aren't even the biggest stores. And you could take that cost and go, geez, that's a lot of money. But see, here's the thing. They're covering 374 hours a month. So you're spending, Ted, $1.30 to $13 an hour. We can't even hire one person for that. And we're getting an entire team. Instead of $21.60 for a head, we're getting somewhere less than $8 an hour. In the middle of that, we're getting multiple FTEs. So the value of having both is a very powerful value proposition. The numbers don't lie. That same thing we were all told when we got in this business. It's a numbers game. It still is. So the 3 T's, touch, right? Time, and till. I want to take you a little deeper. It's a stealth weapon, man. I mean, to me, we're maximizing every touch. We want that best shot. And to me, the best shot is a shop that's loaded with preset appointments. Yeah. And then you got a system. Let me just close with the big picture. I just want to share this quick. You know, there's somebody, maybe more than one, that's watching this and they say, yeah, but listen, what I want to say to you is this, maybe yeah, but it's true. The important thing is to see the scope of where you're at in time and what's happening in the industry, where we're at in the game. It's not always the first minute of the first quarter. Things are evolving. That's why shows like this have taken off, because there's a hunger to understand and learn. Back in 1998, we were all around. And there were 2 kids. One guy's name was Larry and the other was Sergey. And they wanted to go back to college. They wanted to go back to Stanford. And they had this little program they were horsing around with called Backrub. You can look it up. Well, Backrub was scraping servers at Stanford, and Larry and Sergey wanted to go back to school, finish their degree. So they thought they'd take their little company called Google and sell it. Well, fortunately for Yahoo, they had a chance to buy it. And Larry and Sergey, they wanted $1 million. And Yahoo fell in love with their own idea, just like we can do sometimes. And they said, you know, that's too much. That's too much. And besides, we're writing our own search engine. So about 4 years went by, and it was 2002. And Yahoo realized, Ted, they said, you know what? I think we screwed up. We should have bought Google. So they go back to the guy and said, look, I know it's worth more than $1 million. In fact, it's worth more than $1 billion. We'll give you $3 billion for it. And Larry and Sergey now knew what they had. And they said, you know what? We want $5 million. And Yahoo said, shoot, we're not going to pay you $5 million. It's not worth $5 million. So about another 6 years goes by. And now in that time, Ted, Google goes from being, who are they, to you can't buy them. Today, their market cap is almost $2 trillion. $2 trillion. It's well over $1 trillion. It's incredible. It's 2022. Microsoft comes along. They have Bing, and they go, hey, let's buy the Yahoo search engine. We'll buy Yahoo. We'll give them $40 billion. Well, finally, Yahoo's going to get it right? And, well, no, I think there was a reason they named themselves Yahoo, because they declined again. About 8 years goes by, and they finally got to the altar, and they got married for $4.6 billion, less than what they could have bought Google for in 2002. The question is this: maybe that's why the most interesting man in the world, he doesn't always Yahoo, but when he does, it's to search for Google, Ted. I don't want to be a Yahoo. I want to catch the calls. I want to load the shop. Ted, it's always a pleasure to run with you, but I wanted to hammer it home there at the end today and say, man, it's easy to miss this stuff, and it's sitting there. There's not a store watching today that cannot leverage these principles. They don't have to work with Traver Connect. They can work with anybody, but these principles are true and they're timely.
John, you really have made us rethink our strategy for BDC, and I love the 3 T's, and I love what Traver, the big T, is doing in our industry for our retailers. John Traver, thank you so much. Always a great honor to have you and to learn from you and to learn from the best. John Traver, everybody, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Always our pleasure.
Hi, John Traver here at Traver Connect. Thanks for joining us on our Service BDC video today. If you've already partnered with us, we appreciate your partnership over these past years. If you're new to us, we look forward to getting to hear your story and come alongside you relative to Service BDCs. When you hear the term Service BDC, the first word for me that comes to mind is calls. That's what really a service BDC is going to be built around, both inbound and outbound calls. Those calls are going to load your shop, it's going to drive your RO count, and ultimately, it's going to tee up your next retail unit. One reason the service BDC is so successful today, so important today, is it has a massive amount of opportunity in the form of those incoming calls. The cell phone changed everything. It's increased the amount of calls to dealerships, and as a result, we have to have a team of people centralized to take those calls. It's always been busy in service, but today, when you ask dealers, they tell you they need help.
With only 3 service riders, it's virtually impossible for my service riders to load the shop effectively and efficiently in order to keep my shop full.
The second thing I'd be thinking about if I were you is, what do my calls sound like? What is our statement of work in those calls? Are we asking for email, address, phone number? Do we use a time and mileage approach to make sure we're pre-selling to any additional needs, or are we just order taking and then trying to take care of the customer when they get there and tell them we need their car all day? So what you want to do is establish a clear roadmap for how your calls are going to be handled. We'll help you do that, whether it's virtually here through our BDC or we do it with your team at your dealership. So perhaps you're like some dealers, when they hear us talk about centralizing the calls here in Dallas, Texas, they wonder what that call might sound like.
One thing I like about Traver is that my customers feel as though they're dealing with someone within my own store. I've had several customers come to my store and ask to speak to Chelsea when my people that realize Chelsea doesn't work there, she actually works in the call center in Dallas.
I have you scheduled for the recall. Was there anything else?
Let me tell you, you're like the most professional person I've ever spoken to, I think.
My pleasure.
Good job.
Thank you.
No, I'm serious. I'm being completely serious. No, we don't need anything else. That was great.
You have a wonderful day.
Okay, you're doing a great job. You sound good on the phone. So
Oh,
when I see Herb, I'll tell him he's a great person on the phone.
We're built for service BDCs, 60,000 square feet of workstations and personnel trained to take inbound calls. There's a handful of ways we can help you. We can help you with a virtual service BDC where we take your calls. We can help you with outbound campaigns, filling in those open spots in your schedule, turnkey, not just getting the customer to call, but actually taking the call and loading it in your scheduler. 3, training for your business development manager, for your business development rep. How do they take these calls? We'll bring them into our customer experience center if they're a BDM, or we'll provide online training for those BDRs. Leadership education for you. You're wondering, what are my KPIs? What should my staffing plan be? We can walk you through this in less than a day. And then tools, everything from texting, mobile payments, even in-dealership software to help your BDRs. So hopefully you see we're built for service BDCs. This is what we do, not what we talk about, and we hope to be talking to you soon.
Well, Ted, Traver Connect sure brought fire to this March Magic event. But we still have many more MVPs lining up to take the court today. Like our next guest, who has been climbing the ranks one step at a time with the fastest growing roster we've seen yet. Please welcome Fernando Arellano, the CEO of Step 1 Automotive Group.
Every now and then in our industry, there is somebody who bursts upon the retail scene, who makes a change, and it is definitely noticed. Our gentleman today who will be speaking is setting the tone for what is possible at Step 1 Automotive Group. He's fostering innovation from certainty to discovery. He's fostering collaboration from authority to partnership with a limitless approach and movement. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Fernando Arellano, who is the CEO of Step 1 Automotive Group. Fernando, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hi, Ted. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Very happy to be here with you guys.
Fernando, it's a great honor to have you. I have watched over these past few months, perhaps longer, in awe of the great success your organization is having. And you and your team are clearly making a difference in the automotive industry.
Thank you very much, Ted, for that. And you're right, and this is the team. I always want to say it doesn't matter how many brands we represent, doesn't matter how many buildings we have. This is about the people. This is about the team members that they make a big, big difference in what we're doing today.
And I've noticed that in a lot of the things that I've seen, especially on social media, Fernando, you highlight the team very much in what it is and all that you do there at Step One. And I do believe, however, that the person who sets the tone, that starts at the top, and that's clearly you. And Fernando, you are different. You have an MBA, okay? And I believe your mindset is different than the typical dealer group operator. You've got 25 years of international experience in Europe, in Latin America, in the US. Tell us a little bit about how all this came about at Step One.
So listen, first of all, big believer in the good Lord. No, we work hard, but there's, I always said that that's 30% that's connected to the good Lord. Some people said lack. But the other 70% is about, really, really hard work. And yes, my grandfather was a Chrysler dealership in Patagonia. When you're speaking about myself being different, probably you're speaking about my broken English. That's one of the different things that I have. People get sometimes used to my broken English. But what I'm bringing to the table probably, yes, is international experience. Spent some time in the manufacturer side. I have the opportunity and the pleasure to work with Mr. Marchione and Stellantis, FCA, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. So I worked 10 years on the other side of the wall, what I said. So we act, even though this is an organization that we are dealerships at the end. No, we are 22 operations, from which one rental car, 3 parts operations. But, we represent manufacturers, but with a very clear idea in the top management of the company. I would say not as a dealership, but maybe as a distributor. Passionate, extremely passionate about the process of making things happen. I always tell the guys, I don't know if, my passion is big on the core, on the piece of metal, but it's big on the process. You put the piece of metal and what's going to happen and what's going to be the outcome of that. At the end is value for shareholders and it's value for team members. So I think that that's part of what we're doing together. So we build a vehicle. Step One Automotive Group today is a $1 billion, Ted, company. This is a fairly young company, but what I would like to explain that is behind this vehicle that we produce, there are an amount of team members that are bringing a lot of experience. So you told mine, but we have guys with 30, 25 years, 19 years of experience in the industry, that when they jump in this vehicle, what's the result? First of all, we have fun. Let me tell you, we work hard, but we party hard. This is one of the things I want to put on the table. We recognize team members. We share value. There's a big culture of sharing, what we're doing from the point of view of compensation and from the point of view of results. Big fun, of appreciation of what the guys have put on the table. The MBA piece, yes, give you a little bit of insight and a different perspective. This is not a mom and pop shop, with all respect. We're running a big company that looking always, to the future and what's this company is going to become, no?
And you are clearly attracting a higher caliber of managers, employees. Sean Kingery, which is your fixed ops director,
yes,
the platform, Fernando, great man. He's been on our program a number of times, including this event. He said to me, Ted, whenever I come on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I am flooded by resumes for people from outside the auto and inside the auto industry who want to get involved with our organization. So, Fernando, there clearly is some magic. And you're coming to us today, I see, from the war room there in Fort Walton Beach. And I believe that you, as you mentioned to me, are very visual. And I think it's very important for a leader to have that quality.
Yeah, let me show. You asked me to show, what we have here. So we run the company on a daily basis. We told the guys, we need to run this company based on daily basis and on hourly basis. Yes, I'm very visual. What you see here are the main KPIs of the company. the 22 operations, some key KPIs. One of the things that I like a lot is setting ourselves for success. I always tell the guys, I started in the United States with a small Fiat store in Miami. So nobody was waking up in the morning to buy a Fiat in the very beginning of the morning in Miami. So it was key for me when I closed the day that the team members know tomorrow what's going to happen. So we have 5-6 appointments. The guys know that it was going to be a day that we could put a couple of cars out in the street. So there was a gentleman, some time ago coming to me telling me, you're running domestic manufacturers as a luxury brands. That's one of the things. And this is an organization that doesn't sell products. What we do, we set ourselves to success based on appointments. So the appointment setting is key of what we're doing here. So I know this morning that I woke up, I have 170 appointments for sales. So I know what's going to happen at the end of the day. This is not a science, this is a technique, but the big push is on setting tomorrow. What's going to happen tomorrow? This works on ports and service. This works also on the rental car company. I like to see the pipeline. And yes, Ted, I'm visual, so I need my screens. 9 appointments a day keep Fernando away, but if I don't see my screens, I get nervous. That's the reason why.
I love it so much. And Fernando, your mindset is clearly different. And you're right. You mentioned earlier about making it happen. I believe that you make it happen and you look for people on your team who help make it happen. Tell our audience again, how many stores, how many rooftops, how many brands, if you don't mind?
So today is 16 brands, so 22 operations that we have, 22 locations. I was telling you about 3 mighty franchises. We got into the parts distribution. This was a very interesting vertical integration. We represent today 46% of the manufacturers, let me say, in USA. So we have 52.4% for the time being that we don't have the parts. So this was a way to bringing some business on step one. And it was not only about the vertical integration from the point of view of revenues and gross profit. It was from the point of view of service, quality of service. Big believer in reconditioning. We have a huge project on reconditioning. We start 2019 with 17 days average time to market in reconditioning. And this not was just only the time that the car passed through service. This was from the moment we buy a car, in the auction, and from the moment that it was frontline ready. So from 17 days, and today we're playing in the 6 days. We're getting really very good on that one. So bottom line of the story, this kind of vertical integration has been helping us a lot in order to push, this kind of process. We speak with the guys. One of the things we said is it's not about working hard. It's about working smarter. Okay, so rethinking the process, what we can do better, what we can do faster. We have a very interesting team in the company. We call it BIU, Business Intelligence Unit. These are 5 guys. What they do, these guys, so we throw them a complex process and they're going to give us a solution in numbers. A complex process, they're going to give us a redefinition of processes, or probably complex problem, and they're going to give us back, a slides to going to allow to take us the decision. But the key, I'm going back to the people, is absolutely based on the execution. I'm always looking forward for, the sense of urgency, the outstanding execution, the ownership. I ask the guys, this is your company, it's not my company, it's our company. Our responsibility is on 789 families. It's not only about the paycheck, it's who's behind, how we take care of our families and what's the impact of our decision and all those guys and the kids going to school. And, I think that we have a bigger role and it's not just an only selling cars and making profit.
I like that. And 789 families. So there is clearly something different about step one, Fernando. And what I like very much, I saw that your operating model, you have everything written down. You have your mission, you have your core values, and you've put it in writing, which a lot of folks in our business, as you know, have not done that. And I think that's also a tribute to you. One of the things you've said, there are some operating initiatives. There are 3, I think, that you had written down. You radically flatten the structure, okay? You turbocharge decision-making, which I can tell right now with that sense of urgency, and you treat your talent who are responsible for that 789 families as capital, as a limited capital. Tell us a little bit about those things, if you don't mind.
I'm going to start with one that probably you don't said, that is, yes, we have the mission, we have the vision, extremely clear, but we have a leadership model. So I'm going to tell you something that I learned not many years ago, that leadership is going to overcome the management science. And this is really very cool. So whatever you're going to put on the paper, there's going to be a business plan that's going to be supported by a management science. When you put the leadership on top of that, you're going to overachieve. That's our model, you know, and working in leadership is not just and only taking care of the top 20 guys, top 40 guys that they have a big responsibility on 789, but, you know, sharing what's the model, you know, and this is about changing people and it's leading people and it's leading change. These are two big columns that we focus a lot all the time. You can, you know, figure out different leadership models, but big believer that probably what we have today is working very well. It's leading people and leading change. You know, these are the two aspects and two elements. So I'm going to repeat the concept because I think it's really, really cool. Leadership is going to overachieve, you know, the management science. And this is coming from the service, from the militaries. You know, the guys are big, big believers in this. Yes, very flat structure, very, you know, open, big believer in communication and trust. There's no such a problem that we cannot figure out and we're not going to solve it and we put it on the table. This is about taking ownership. You know, guys, I mess it. Sometimes I mess it too. You know, I take decisions that they're not correct or probably didn't see it coming, but it's putting on the table, you know, working with extremely very committed guys. When we say it, what's good for step one is good for me. What's good for step one is good for me. So we're taking, you know, the personal side. We're taking out the drama out from the equation, and it's about, you know, the company, where we're going, and what we would like to accomplish. So yes, mission and vision. And there's another one that we have on the table that is about stepping up. You know, and, you know, it's a beautiful chart that we have in all the stores. And this came in 2019. 2019, when we have the pandemic. And I always tell the guys the worst side of the pandemic has been the fear. It's not about the effect, it's the fear. The original concept was, you know, we're going to keep our team safe. We need to keep this guy safe. Mm-hmm. But in that moment of fear, everybody was reacting in a very weird way. We have colleagues firing people, you know, our organization nearby, 40% downsizing and structure. Yeah. So we got out from the pandemic. You know, fortunately, we managed the way 0 people fired. We keep all our teams. Wow. We kept our team safe, but the requirement, it was stepping up. It's not enough what you was doing today. And originally, yesterday, you know, to what's coming. And originally, the statement, probably it was for the big guys, big directors of the company. And I realized that it was for the service advisor. It was for the porter, you know, step up. You know, what you don't do today is not the same that you're doing tomorrow. You know, entertain the customers in the best way possible. You know, a big smile is going to make a big, big difference. And I promised my partner at the very beginning, listen, you know, the moments, they are really tough and really, you know, complicated for all of us. But I promise you that we're going to have a company at the end of this situation is going to be stronger than ever. And I think that we make it happen because of this.
Wow. You told me earlier that you have a military partnership at step one. And that's a big part of the commitment that you've made to the community. Fernando, tell us a little bit about that military partnership that your organization has.
Let me tell you, you know, born in Argentina, lived many years in Italy, conduct business in Brazil. I'm the kind of guy that if you ask me, where do you live? I'm going to tell you, we live in the best country in the world. You know, and whomever have any doubts about this, you can come to me and I can tell you why. I can tell you why, because I've been living abroad. So I see the positive and I also see the opportunities. And probably, you know, when I arrived to you know, we're located in the Panhandle. There's a very strong military component, not only in the customer base, but also we have the Air Force Base, we have the Rangers, the 7 Special Forces, and we have the top of these guys, Special Forces and the Green Berets on the Army. You have the combat controllers. And I got really inspired about these guys, not only because, they keep us safe and what they have been doing for us and what they do for us, but because, normally when we work in this environment, you're going to have guys come to you and say, boss, this is tough. It's hot outside. And what I was asking in this kind of relationship, and we have people coming, and it was keynote speaker, it was share with us, management, relentless approach, when we speak about stress management, when we speak about leadership. And we start bringing some of these guys, to the table. And it was about showing the team, whenever you complain, there are some guys jumping on the other side of the world, probably in the middle of the desert, just in order to keep us safe. So there has been a great contribution coming from these big guys in the service, on the business side. Slowly and steady, today, I would say we have 10 of those guys working with us, some of them in training. We have a combat controller colonel coming from the Air Force, being the head of human resources and talent management. Why? Because these guys are very good with people. They don't know about the automotive business, but they are experts in people and leadership. So we have been having this kind of influence of these guys, with us. We spent a long time with them, some training out from the company, doing trekking with them. We ride motorcycles with the guys, not only with people working with us, but people in the service coming with us. So building this relationship that I would say that is very, I would say it's organic. It's very difficult, to build in another way. I became an honorary commander of the Air Force, so I'm very proud about that. So I would imagine something that this could happen to me. But the key of this is where we're going and not where we have. So we understand the side and the effect on the company, but there's a big give back that I learned from the Air Force. The guys are always there is give back to the community. And these have two sides. I'm getting classy. Lately, I'm saying that. It's not I'm getting old, I'm getting classy. And I think that I'm not going to be able to change the world, but we're going to be able to inspire somebody that's going to do it for us. And this is about putting together these big organizations, core dealerships, Air Force, militaries. When we put them together, we can have a big impact on the community with unprivileged kids. Probably Sean told you about, the technical lab that we're working, the Ocalusia Technical School that we're putting together. So this is part of the puzzle that we're putting together. The other side of this, with this organization that we're working today, that we call it Forever Warriors, is always putting an eye on those guys that are coming out from the service. These guys put many, many years, 30 years in the service, and sometimes they don't know where to go. They don't have the future. They're not trained for that. And we open our doors and our arms to these guys to tell them, listen, you have a space here. What you learn there can be used in the automotive business in an extremely good way. And you can speak about service advisors, becoming technicians, becoming a managers, being in desking deals and being in the dealerships, selling cars. So this is more or less where we're going with that. I would say this is a very beginning of where we're going, but it's working really very well. I'm very proud, of this involvement that we're having with these guys and with the community.
I could tell so much. And it is not just the military, but you mentioned the community also. You've got a partnership within that community. And I've heard so much about that. Let me go back, if I may. You mentioned earlier that you've been building what I hear is called the Center of Excellence on 3.7 acres, a reconditioning center for the entire company. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So if we go back to your numbers, so 2019, 2020, probably we double numbers, volume. So units in operation for you guys that you're so used to that. 2020, 2021, we double again. We double the company. This was a $500 million company. We double it in a moment that we have no cars. We have no new cars. It looks like auction is getting crazy. So the reality is that we are setting, based on the results of the company, I was not going to say we are setting a big challenge for the guys from Parts and Service for what's going to come. So at the very beginning, when we doubled the first time, it was about we need to figure out those workshops that they have capacity. So we have some brands where the capacity was not fully absorbed, and we have some brands where we need extra, 10 lifts and working position tomorrow morning. And we divert whatever was internal to the reconditioning centers. So, we leave the customer face and we leave the customer pay in that store. Wherever we have capacity, we start moving our used cars to that reconditioning center. I realized that was not enough, so we start building what we call today the Center of Excellence. A Center of Excellence is going to be a workshop fully dedicated just and only for reconditioning of used cars. This is the used car machine, and it's related to a time to market that I was telling you before, Ted. It's about, how fast we get in, how fast we get it out. Where it's not only about reconditioning, it's the detailing, it's going to be the pictures there of the cars. So you have a piece of the merchandising. I'm trying to finish the first one, COVID, from the point of view of labor and material stuff, but we are planning to have 3 of them. So one in Fort Walton Beach, Destin area. The other one is going to be in Pensacola, and another one in Savannah, in the area of Savannah. Because what we're building is capacity. It's capacity and time to market. That's behind this idea. But very excited. I'm looking forward to show you what we're going to put together there.
You have an amazing vision, and you're an amazing person as well, Fernando. I think I could interview you here all day. I'm going to have to come to Fort Walton Beach and meet you in person and see all this firsthand.
Please, and sometimes I always tell the guy, this is a very open organization. What we do here have no secret recipe. And I'm always telling the guys, come here, put an eye, people that they're not working with us, some dealerships that they visit us. I think that the secret sauce that we put here is love. Believe it or not, I always tell the guys, compassion, be compassion with people, because once again, we work with imperfectly perfect, people also. And the compassion, and when we put an eye on the limits and we try to reinforce, the positive elements that they bring to the table, this works very well. And the secret sauce, once again, is left. So I'm always open to show you what we do here. This is like my wife. She's Italian. She cooks Italian. I can give you all the recipe of the world, but, you need to have that special sauce that I think that we have it here, Ted. But yes, more than happy to have you with us, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. I could smell the special sauce. Finally, Fernando, for today, what advice can you give our audience, the dealers, the general managers watching, the fixed operations, the service, the parts, the reconditioning, the pre-owned used car managers watching? Yeah. What advice would you give our audience today, looking ahead for the rest of 22 and how to be prepared?
Yeah. So let me tell you, there's a big disruption coming, and whomever didn't realize, you have manufacturers thinking about direct distribution. You have big changes from the point of view of customer base. You have our customers more educated than ever. You have an e-commerce process that is coming from manufacturers and their external vendors, et cetera, et cetera. So who doesn't understand that we are in the middle of the disruption probably is looking to different field, no? And I'm very active in dealer councils, and sometimes I hear people that they don't realize. I always tell the guys, there's a wave coming, and the magic about this wave, who's going to be in condition to surf it? I tell the guys, stay focused. We're going to surf this wave. This wave is based on training. Training and prepare yourself. Big advocate on customer satisfaction. The programs that you have today is coming from the manufacturers. They have their own training. Yes. So we check that box. We train the top level of the organization. We have 17 guys in NADA Academy. So we are preparing the guys for what's going to come. Yes, big training to the rest of the organization, not only technician, whomever have a contact, let me say, is in contact with a final customer, need to have 1 day off of the job, just and only in training. So this is what we're doing in 2022. So I think that training probably is going to give a big piece of the solution. 70% is attitude, Ted. Attitude. You know, you have the future. The future is on you. It's not on step one. Brother, you have the future. If you have your attitude and you understand that you can change your future, we're going to give you the tools to make this happen.
Wow. Great advice, Fernando. And on behalf of the Fixed Ops community and the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I want to thank you for your time with us here this morning. We're going to have to come back and see more and learn more. But in the meantime, Fernando, thank you so much for your time with us today.
My pleasure, sir. All the best for you guys. Always here for you.
Fernando, the Chief Executive Officer at the Step One Automotive Group, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ted.
All right, Joe. And coming up next, we've got the Walser Automotive Group. How do you feel about them? What do you think they're going to bring to the table today?
Man, I got to tell you, Kara, I love that Walser team. They are absolutely unbelievable. A couple weeks ago, I got to go out to Minneapolis, spend time in their headquarters, got to see what they're all about, and they are changing this game. They are pushing the envelope, and they are literally causing everybody to perk up and take notice because they are doing things differently, and it is working. Their leadership is strong, their bench is deep, and they've got an incredibly creative group of people that are absolutely pushing the boundaries of what this industry can look like. And it is an awesome opportunity for all of us to learn from people that are doing it and doing it well. I can't wait to hear what they have to say.
I'm excited, and I know the crowd's getting fired up, Joe. Let's see what's next.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Ted Ings, and it is a great pleasure to welcome the team from the Walser Automotive Group and welcome back a familiar face to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's Ashley Cavazos. Ashley, welcome back to the event.
Hi, Ted. It's good to be back.
Great to see you. And, it's been a while since you've been on the show, but I know that you've assembled some big firepower from what I see here at the Walser Automotive Group. And Ashley, I love the topic of the panel. It's not like the other guys.
That's right, Ted. We are not like the other guys at Walser Automotive Group.
Well, I know our audience is really keen and interested in that, and we want to learn more. So with that, Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll let you introduce everybody and let you get things going.
All right, sounds good. I'll take it away. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm Ashley Cavazos. I'm Director of Digital Performance at Walser Automotive Group, and we're excited to bring Not Like the Other Guys, how dealers can start thinking more like leaders, a program really inspired by our CHRO, who we have on the call with us, Sherry Schultz. We are also glad to have some other power hitters in our group. We have Dayna Landgrebe, who is our Senior Manager of Corporate Communications, and an ERG sponsor in our group, Angie Kruger, Director of Learning and Development, Jennifer Parsons, our Director of Finance, and Greg Davis, who is our VP General Manager at Walser Bloomington Toyota. So one of the things we all really love about working for Walser is that words like core values and servant leadership are more than just a poster on a wall. And it was really one of the things that I was very aware of from my first conversations with our CEO, Andrew Walser. Yes, we sell cars and we service cars at Walser, but we're also in the people business. We know how fast moving this industry is, and like digital isn't going anywhere, neither are our people. They are the new currency. We cannot evolve without them. So with that said, I'm excited to bring this group together and talk a little bit and bring you inside into what makes us who we are. So I'd really love to start with Sherry. Sherry, you have been a driving force for us at the group, and so honored to have you here. Thank you for taking time out of the schedule. I know how busy you are. You've been with us for a little over 3+ years. You've accomplished so much. From helping to initiate our employee resource groups like Women of Walser and Drive with Pride to introducing the values exercise. For someone who is looking to bring change to their dealership, where would you say would be some good places for them to start?
Yeah, Ashley, I love your your comment about people are the currency. I think people are the only currency, actually. I live by it. My career has chosen me wisely. I've been here for 4 years, and it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to work with the team. So for me, I think I often get asked, hey, what's your diversity strategy? What's your approach to building inclusivity on a show floor or in any company? And I think you have to have a people strategy first, right? And so you can't just aspire to be an inclusive organization until you really understand at the center of your proposition what people mean to you. And I think where organizations can stumble sometimes is when they put a top-down approach on the value proposition versus asking the people what matters to them first. And I think from a values exercise, what we love to do, and I know all of you on this particular panel have been part of this firsthand, we like to ask our employees what they value, what matters most to them. And so when you're designing a program or you're thinking about, gosh, am I going to do something that adds value to employees? Until you ask, I think you're guessing. You're looking at what everybody else does and you say, okay, I'll do something like that, maybe customize it a little bit. But for us, we've probably asked 500, 600, 700 different roundtable panel group discussions that we've had across our organization. And when we ask, and I'll share the Walser Automotive Group values, it's always about family, right? And so when you try to make a difference, asking what they value is the first step. We learned family is the most important thing to our employees. So everything that we're going to talk about is what is spun out of that. What have we done to actually bring a value to our employees based on what matters most to them? And so from a family perspective, you then look and say, gosh, how can I customize my offering and bring value-driven benefits that speak to the needs of family? And so that's the start. And I think it's so intuitive and quite simple. Ask what people want.
I love that. You talk about bringing your whole self to work as well, right? We have our ERGs. We have Women of Walser and Drive with Pride. We also have Mosaic, an employee resource. Really looking at our people, and we see you, we hear you, we are with you. Angie and Dayna, you work so closely with Sherry. You're very active in our ERGs. Angie, you're the president of Women of Walser. Dayna, you sponsor from the top down and help drive this force forward for us. Starting an ERG may not be the easiest thing for somebody to do. They may not even have the resources to do it. What are some of the opportunities you see where dealers can start getting that conversation going? And what are the benefits you're seeing yourself across the groups?
Well, I'll jump right in and just completely echo what Sherry said, which is I think the first step to starting an ERG is really understanding what your employees want. From a personal perspective, from a core values perspective, I mean, that can be so monumental in driving the direction of your employee experience. And when Sherry came to Walser and said, hey, another great way to have this conversation is to look at what the marketplace is doing and to look like your marketplace and getting the ball rolling by broaching that conversation or couching it with senior leaders to say, listen, it's not only the right thing to do, but there's an incredible, compelling business case when you look at looking like the people that are walking through your front doors. It's revenue generating to think about how to match the marketplace and then formalize the conversations from there. I think once we had those conversations, we started to look at things that could really develop, for example, the women and Women of Walser, our professional development, our personal development, our education, and our advocacy of our employees from there.
So, yeah, Ash, before we move on to, I think the most important thing about when you ask your employees what they value, when you ask, you do have to do something, right? And so I think the activation of asking came forward in resource groups because we had folks that said, hey, I want to look like community and I want to be supported here. And so the things that Angie will talk about is what came out of people saying, hey, we want a presence here from a female both from a consumer perspective, but also from an employee perspective. So how are we going to answer that, right? It's we all know the stats on title ownership and decision-making from a purchasing perspective, but you can't do something for the customer that you haven't done inside for your own people first. And I think that's where the genuine nature of what we've done really matters. And so when you think about family and people suggesting that, yes, we want the diversity on our show floor. So what? So what do you do? So did we have maternity and paternity leave when we began working together? We didn't. And now we do. Did we have fertility and adoption assistance? We didn't. And now we do. Did we have bring your child to work day and, snow day support where you could actually bring your kid if you're really stuck on a day? No, we didn't, but now we do. And so to Dayna's point, if you're going to ask and you're going to try to activate for the consumer, best practice for me is make sure you do it inside your own house first before you start giving it to the customer. So Angie's done a really great job with the women of Walser, and I know she can put more meat on the bones for this for us.
Yeah, thanks, Sherry. I would say that getting the group started, if that's what you're wondering how to do, is just get some people together and start talking about it. What do you want to accomplish is the first step. It's not enough to just get a group together to talk about how difficult it is to be a woman in this organization or to complain about things. Yes, you may have those moments where people need to get past maybe how they've been treated in the past, but it's then how are you going to make it a better place? How are you going to recruit more females into the industry or more LGBTQ plus individuals? How are you going to support the ones that are already there? Sherry mentioned a lot of the things that we do already to now try and support our women or anyone in the organization with paternity and maternity leave. Or at one of our Women of Walser events, it came up that women in particular have a hard time on snow days. We all know how challenging snow days are in this industry. You got to get there early, you got to help clear the lot, get all the snow off the cars, but that's also the time in Minnesota where school shut down and now I have no daycare and I have a kid at home. So how can we help support our employees, which is why we decided if you're really in a bind, bring your kids. We'll find a way to entertain them, have them in the back. And that came out of one of our Women of Walser events where we had a bunch of women together talking about some of the things that would help make the environment better for more women, better for more people to come and bring their whole self to work every day, including your kid in some cases. So the biggest thing with trying to get these ERGs together, I would say, is just get people's input, get support from your general managers. Greg has been a huge advocate for us, attending events, just listening, hearing what people are saying. It's support, but it's also education, because there were things that come up out of these groups that we didn't realize were happening or that our general managers may not have always seen or heard, especially when there may only be 2 or 3 women in a particular location. So listen, support, try and understand. And the first step is really just get people together and get started. You don't have to have a huge budget. You don't have to have all these glamorous things. It just starts with a couple people wanting to make change.
I'm finding a theme here. Ask your people, right? Is that really what it kind of comes down to? Which, now I'm going to kind of turn things over to Greg. As a general manager, you live this life every day in your store. You've been working in automotive for 30 plus years. You've seen firsthand the roller coaster of change in the industry over the years. You're also at the center of the Twin Cities with a diverse team in the middle of a metro. You have made what some might think are small changes, but they have made a large impact to the people. I think one of the things dealers may not realize is when you invest in your people, you see an increase in performance as well. What are some of the changes you've made and what is the impact you've seen in your store?
Thank you for having me on this roundtable, first of all, Ashley. And I would say, to echo what Sherry says about the employee experience, the guest experience will never exceed that. And she's brought that to the forefront with her leadership and a lot of the folks on this call, that how do you lean into, how do you reach out to your employees, regardless of what their background is, what their experience level is, what is it that matters to them? What are their values? How do you connect with them? Because once you find that, and you tap into that potential, they become a different employee altogether, which I've seen in this store. And it's really been, heartfelt for me, somebody who has been in this industry for so long, and we've done so many things so well, but I never felt like we really tapped our potential from an employee perspective, or just the potential to be who they want to be and go where they want to go, map out their future. I think we've gotten really good with doing more one-on-one type conversations with our folks to understand, what does my future look like? People don't generally leave companies, they leave a boss. And so how do we get our leaders to actually lead by getting to know what it is that's inside of our employees that they want out of this career? How do they balance the outside work with the inside work? I think we have two families. We have our family that we work with, and then we have our family that we go home to provide for, and they both matter. So I think at this store in particular, some of the things that we've done, we have a pretty diverse show floor and a diverse shop and service department. How do we connect with those different communities that maybe haven't always been supported like they should be? And I think for someone like myself that maybe doesn't always see things, I tend to not see color, but that's a problem in and of itself because you don't know what somebody else's perspective is and what they may have gone through to get here. So how do we make things easier for them, whether it's trying to grow into a leadership role or just get a shot somewhere within the organization? So we have to work extra harder with those communities that are challenged, that are marginalized. And I think Sherry and the team has brought that to the forefront. And it goes to a bigger, question about just your people in general. Do you know them? And I've worked really hard to change who I am. I'm driven to succeed and to win. I love a challenge. And sometimes I can lose focus of the people along the way. And Sherry has really helped me to understand that, hey, if you really want to get to that next level, it's through your people. And so thank you for that, Sherry. And thank you for all you've done to help this company grow in ways that we weren't even sure we could grow. And we're seeing it in better KPIs in nearly every department and dealership. And it's a people-focused business, as you alluded to, Ashley. How do we maximize things there? How do we make people feel comfortable when they come to work, whether it's their children, whether it's starting a family through maternity and paid paternity leave? Those things, they're huge things that, I wish I would have had when I was younger. But now I'm so excited for my employees that they have the chance to bond with their children and then come back to a company that cares about their whole self, as you said earlier. So I'm just so excited to be a part of a team that has the vision that we have to grow in ways that aren't just about how many rooftops can we have as a dealer group. But when we do that, if we do get the chance and the opportunity to grow with our manufacturer partners or by buying another rooftop, how do we find leaders to run these stores in the way that we believe they should be run to create that sense of community at the store level? So one of the things we did that's kind of unique, I think that's fun, is we have a big Somali population here. And I would see them throughout the dealership praying throughout the day. It's very important. They're very disciplined in their prayer. And we wanted to create a special spot to do that. And in our existing dealership, we didn't really have a place. They would find quiet areas, the elevator room, an office that wasn't being occupied. So we dedicated an office downstairs for people that want to prayer of all faiths, primarily used by a lot of our folks that are of Muslim faith, but anyone can use it. So it's very inclusive, and it kind of rings true to what we're trying to create in our environment. We've done things that cater to people's lifestyle in terms of their food choices. I know Sherry brought in some healthy food choices to our dealerships. It's called Avenue C, which it's tough to eat on the go when you're in a fast-paced environment, whether you're a technician or whether you're a salesperson. So how do we get them recharged and refueled with the right cup of coffee, the right healthy food choices, things like that, feeding them on Saturdays? So I think there's a lot of things we've considered, from what you mentioned earlier, Ashley, about snow days, which a lot of people may not know about snow days. If you live south of where we are in the northern section of the country, it's a big event to move every car, key every car, plow the lot. I'm sure you have your own challenges in parts of the country that aren't related to snow, but we work hard, and it's fun to see people get smile on their faces and have us problem solve with them to make things easier, whether it's time away, whether it's more effective ways to work when you're here. One of the things that we may get to later that I'll just touch on is even the way we work. We try to create small work groups where we have a defined boss that we know who's responsible for my success and what team am I a part of. And we try to work in areas, whether it's in the show floor or the shop, in those teams, those smaller groups, to provide for coaching and development of our employees so they can get ongoing hands-on, I do, we do type servant leadership versus, hey, just go do this and I'll be over here, or come back and see me. So we're really active in trying to coach people in a way that they want to be coached. So those are some things that we do at the store level. I know I've talked a lot here. I'll turn it back over to you, Ashley, but just really excited about our people driven strategy, which really comes from Sherry more than anybody. I think maybe a step further, Andrew found Sherry, and she has brought so much to this company from a people first strategy.
So, Ash, before I have to call Greg out a little bit and kind of credit him publicly, because one of the things that Dayna and I talk about a lot, and we've said this at other conferences, particularly, whether it's Women in Automotive or some of the other places that we've spoken, that we've been looking at demographic data for decades, right? And so the head won't change until the heart does. And so what I've witnessed firsthand with Greg is, his ability to lead people, his ability to father his amazing daughter, his connection to people. As you said it at the onset, Greg, it's really about becoming a better person. And what Andrew said to me during my recruiting process was, I'm not looking to make great salespeople, I'm looking to make great people. And that for me was like, sign up for that all day long. And so I think when you are looking to create a general manager that's as kind of empowered and progressive as Greg Davis is, you really have to look at the person and where he is or she is in their own development, right? And we have a saying here at Walser, I know myself, I love myself, and then I love my job. And you have to kind of be willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there a bit. And I think from the moment Greg began to embrace, his whole self and started leading from the front, not just with the head, but the heart as well, I watched his business double and now almost triple relative to what has happened. And we can talk about all the tailwind that we've had in the industry from an inventory perspective. His turnover is down, his diversity and his community connection is up. His people are engaged and happy, and they're going the extra mile, for the company. And that just, that comes from bringing your whole self. So kudos to Greg and the vulnerability that he brings to the picture. The other thing that he's really not giving himself credit for is the notion of the prayer room also spawned a broader discussion called faith and understanding, which allowed people to take on things that were very, to some degree, blind spots for individuals and say, hey, I don't know what your faith really means. And, if we're going to judge not, we really have to be able to ask questions. And to Angie's earlier point, the education that I watched Greg lead when he brought 10 people into a room to talk about faith and how do we best respect our Somali customers and employees. Oh, by the way, now we have a portion of our workforce that caters and speaks effectively to that population, and the customer is as connected to us as the employee is because of the work that he did. So, I can't say enough great things about you, Greg, and what you've come through. So, couldn't be prouder to support you and the team as well.
Yes, couldn't agree more, Sherry. And Greg, you gave up your office. What general manager is going to give up their office? And you did that for your team. And it may seem like something small, but it makes a big difference to your people. So I appreciate you talking on that for us. I'm going to switch gears a little bit to Jennifer Parsons. Jen, you're the director of finance. You started in automotive about 8 years ago as a salesperson but you're not our typical automotive background person. You have your MBA. You are just typically not the person we expect to see in the industry. So for dealers who are watching and wanting to attract top talent like yourself, and I think we can all speak to this, as Sherry said, when we spoke to Andrew, we felt something different. But what are some of the things that drew you to automotive? And what should dealers be doing to attract strong talent like yourself who normally wouldn't think about a career in automotive?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, for me, automotive was kind of an accident. I did not set out to, go to graduate school and do all these things to, go into the car business. And I remember when I first took the interview with the group I started with at the time, my dad's like, oh, you don't want to sell cars, do you? Like, no, I'm going to get into finance. I'm going to do this for a couple of years, and then I'm going to go work for the banks. Like that, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew like that's what people do that get an MBA, they go to grad school, like you go work for the banks. Don't know what that means, but I'm going to do it. And then I got attracted to the industry because there's this immense amount of opportunity in this industry that I think a lot of people miss out on because they just look past automotive altogether, which probably would have been me if I hadn't seen. I remember it was a LinkedIn job post for a finance development position. And, I had been hitting all these dead ends and just where did I want to go next with my career? And I stumbled across an amazing leadership team and a huge mentor that is still in my life today. I'm really fortunate to say, and, able to find that path. And what I realized very quickly in automotive is I don't know another industry that has this much opportunity for anybody that's willing to really, do the work and put in the time and the effort. So I would say attracting kind of your not typical car people is as easy as putting together, that plan and that attraction to, hey, I realized you were thinking you were going to end up in this field, but there's actually more opportunity here, and here's why, and here's what we can give you in exchange. And I can't imagine being anywhere else. So
sounds like a career path, right, Sherry?
She is a spokesperson extraordinaire. I think Jen is she is inspirational to me on a lot of fronts. She takes on I think very heady projects that are so critical, because if we make an adjustment one way or the other, our entire company's PVR and our focus on finance products can really change. But ultimately, we look at things through the consumer's lens in many cases, and we try to simplify things. And one of the things that Jen and I have talked about, which is an example of inherently how diversity and inclusion is played out in core work processes, as I think, many people who watch us know, we are a one-person best price dealership, so we're non-negotiating, if you will, and that just isn't on price, right? That's on rate, that's on the trade. And so when you think about the ability to knock out any kind of bias in the financing products or any of those things, Jen's design and the things that she's doing that sort of speak to the consumer regardless of any measurable difference. There's something to be said about how inclusive that is, regardless of skin color or gender or anything, when you have a non-negotiated rate. And I know Jen has worked really hard with our banks to ensure that the process is smooth and simple and very transparent. And I can't say that there's a lot of dealership groups that take diversity and inclusion right to the core of their financing process and their pricing strategies the way we do. So kudos to Jen and the way she's thinking about those processes as well.
Most definitely. Sherry, Angie, Greg, Jen, basically the whole team on this call. One of my big initiatives is we worked really closely on this together was transitioning, and Sherry touched on this. We're one point of contact automotive group, but we transitioned from the traditional dealership setup of having the Genius Bar or the desk, moving into small teams of 4 to 6 sales associates, one sales manager. It's a completely different setup than what dealers are used to, but the results have been pretty incredible, and they're improving daily, from finance to sales to employee engagement and satisfaction. What are the benefits that y'all are seeing from the setup? What have you heard? What feedback could you give? Because I think most dealers, when they hear this, they're like, you did what? Like, you moved the big desk out of the way, your managers are on the show floor now?
I'd like to speak to this. I'm sure all of you have, thoughts on it. But one thing I want to add, just as somebody that came from a traditional F&I office where I was in the back and I was that person that was coming to do the financing, to see I think of it from a consumer standpoint. The customer walks in, I'm sitting at a salesperson's desk, and there's no, let me go talk to my manager, or let me grab the finance person. Let me see what your rate's going to be. Like, there's not this secretive kind of, who knows what we want to call it, but there's not this like secret happening in the background. And Greg, I'm sure you see it every day, but just that transparency and that comfort level that a customer sees and feels when they're in one of our stores, as somebody that was the person behind the closed door for a long time, is huge.
Yeah, I would agree, Jen. It's definitely a big change in the way we do things by having that transparency, the one price, the one person throughout, from lead handling all the way through the finance. We used to have what we call Genius Bars. Our owner would call them something different. He'd call them a dummy bar. But, ultimately, we want you as close to the action as possible as a leader. And I think people that lead from in front are going to engage their employees more. So the way we're set up, again, I mentioned a little earlier, is we have roundtables, which is really effective with communicating with our customers, but even our employees sit at roundtables together, and they have their daily huddles where they start their day and they review their KPIs, things they're working on. Where am I tracking for units and finance? And then, when there is a question or there's some involvement needed by a manager during the sales process, you're right there. You've probably met the guest early and often, as we say, maybe with a flyby or a TO that was real introductory, introducing yourself as a leader that's available to help at any point in the process. So I think having people away from the desk, instead of pointing and telling, we are engaged with our people. I think that's made a lot of difference in where we've gone as a company. So couldn't be happier with how we're laid out functionally.
Yeah, managers are sending, go ahead.
Sorry, Ash. I think customers also appreciate, that we are there for our people. It's an interesting thing because whenever I get great service in any commodity or any place, I always wonder, are the employees treated and supported as well as I'm feeling? Right. And I don't like when it's really perfect for me as a customer, but maybe behind the scenes, I'm not getting the type of support, from an employee perspective. I think that it kind of demystifies that for the customer. And when they see our employees being treated well, I think they respect that a lot, because then it's really authentic and genuine and not some kind of show that we're putting on for people. So that's a plus to me as well.
You talk about speaking of coaches. Coaches don't lead from an office or a spot way off of the game floor. They are right there in the action, and that was the point of making this change, is so that our managers were right there seeing, hearing what was going on. And how are you really going to lead your people unless you're actually right there with them, getting to know them? So that was a huge benefit that we got from it. They're coaching from the action.
Coaching during the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just like that, our time has come up, but I wanted to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you, Ted. If you'd like to learn more about this program that we're talking about, the Sherry's created Dealers into Leaders, we do have the link running across on the bottom of your screen there. Definitely check it out. And just thank you all, everybody. Thank you to the audience for joining us, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
And Ashley, I want to thank you for putting this all together. Sherry, I had heard a whole lot about Walser Automotive Group, but I've learned a lot today. And just listening to what Jennifer shared with us and Greg, with a lot of the changes that you've made and why you've made them, and how, Greg, everything speaks, right? All these little things speak volumes. And Angie, the stories that you've shared are really from the heart. And I'm actually very moved by a lot of the things that I've heard. And Dayna, you've done a great job in telling that message and getting that word out. And it's really clear, Ashley, that Walser Automotive Group is not like the other guys, not at all. So, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I want to thank all of you for being here today. Great work. Congratulations on all the success that you're having. I can see why you're having it, and keep up the great work, and don't ever stop. So Ashley and the team here at Walser Automotive Group here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Do you have a great product you want to get in front of auto dealers across the country, and specifically their fixed ops departments? You know, their service, parts, and body shop. For over 15 years, Fixed Ops Magazine has been putting service-related products like yours in front of franchise auto dealers across the country. There simply is no better way to reach every dealer in the USA all at once. Hi, I'm Ron, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine, which is both a digital at fixedopsmag.com and print magazine that reaches out to over 38,000 subscribers who influence what products are purchased in the over 16,000 dealers across the country. Fixed Ops Magazine may even publish your article about a topic you are an expert and have a real passion for in this industry. Every article has the author's contact info so they can reach you. Write an article, run an ad, and an e-blast. We call that our bundle for success. You won't believe how great a deal it is. So to get started, call, text, or email me and I'll tell you more. We are 100% devoted to the franchise stores, so we don't waste your time or money. We are laser focused on your prospects. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today. www.fixedopsmag.com. Ron at fixedopsmag.com. 714-803-5476. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today.
Presenting the Quantum 5 mobile app, the perfect companion in building frictionless customer experiences. After you complete your first in-person learning experience with our team, you'll enter the Quantum 5 world by receiving a text inviting you to download the app. Follow the steps from that link to download the app and verify your phone number. Then you're in. You'll then receive a congratulatory message and an introduction from Dave O'Brien, CEO of Quantum 5. Next, you'll select your social style, or you can take a quick assessment to determine it again. Once you choose your avatar, you're ready to get started. You must complete 1 card of each social style before you can unlock more personalized journeys. Next, we take you to the dashboard of the app, your one-stop source for all the information you need about your current progress, news, or daily quick tiles. Quick tiles are customizable tidbits of knowledge, quotes, or maybe a question to help you think about interactions you've had during your day. You can even configure the app to send you quick tiles during the day, to help you get engaged in the morning or to reflect on your day in the evening. Learnings are grouped into cards that have beautiful art to help you visually catalog your achievements. You can collect and eventually share these cards with your colleagues if you find one useful or memorable. You can see the progress of all your active cards right here on the dashboard. When you're ready to jump back in, simply select your card. You can tap to access your activities and track your progress, or see a summary of the character where you can also record notes personally related to the social style type. Here's an example of a video scenario. The video is presented, and the user can select the answer to progress to the next question. You can even turn your device sideways to see the video in full screen.
I've never driven a Raptor before.
Learnings on the card vary. This can be as simple as asking a multiple-choice question, or as complex as a video scenario with multiple questions about the scenario. Community managers can send newsfeed items to your device. They're shown in chronological order with the most recent article first. When the article is no longer relevant, like an announcement of an event, it will automatically disappear from your feed. You can tap the View All button to see an expanded view of all the newsfeed items available. Depending on where you are on your learning journey, you might be able to start a new card. These cards will be shown in this section in stacks. Based on which card you choose, you can progress forward in your journey, or you can stay at this level and learn more about the current or previous topics. As mentioned earlier, once you have completed 1 card from each social style, more cards will become available. We're constantly creating new content, which will be distributed to members based on the journeys they're on. You'll receive a push notification when new cards are added to your journeys, so you can keep on learning. Your completed cards are always available for you to review. Help is a tap away. The Support tab opens an ongoing private chat between you and your community managers to help you with any issues you're experiencing. This concludes our quick tour of the Quantum 5 mobile app. Thank you for watching.
All the stars we've showcased today have been making spectacular moves, but the next speaker is making a quick break towards the future of the automotive industry. With a new way to showcase Quantum 5, let's hear it for David O'Brien.
Well, the Fixed Ops Roundtable is now in for a special treat because we are going to go to the headquarters of Quantum 5 and meet with our great friend, David O'Brien, who is the president and CEO of Quantum 5. David, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thank you so much. Exciting to be here with you. Basketball time, spring, it's just awesome. And glad to be here in our big glass conference room here at Quantum and just excited to share things with you today.
David, your organization, your people are first class, and you really deliver the goods, okay, for dealers and their results. And, you know, you and I have had many a conversation both here and offline. And, you know, you shared with me your personal philosophy on training success. It's a passion I think that we both have. But I don't think our audience has had an opportunity, Dave, to hear a lot about you and to have you tell us. And I know you're very modest, okay, but to tell us about yourself, and your experience in automotive. So if you wouldn't mind, before we get started, just kind of tell us a little bit about you.
Well, you're right. I always hesitate to talk about me. And it's because of what you said, which is the incredible team that I've accumulated. I've never had such talent around me, so it humbles me. Ted, I think I've shared with you and perhaps even the audience a little bit. I grew up with the son of a dealer. And like many dealers, my dad was hopeful I wouldn't go in the business, right? He wanted me to do different things, right? When I got out of college, Ted, I gravitated to the business, went to work for a great dealer, Bob Rorman, rest his soul. He just passed recently. And what a great innovator Bob was in the business. But I got some incredible mentors working in the Rorman organization in the Chicago marketplace when they first started out. All this stuff about not enough inventory feels really familiar to me because I was selling Hondas at his Honda store back in 1985. The cars were marked up. There were none in inventory. There was an order board that we sold from. You remember those days, right? And so, I grew up in retail. I met some incredible people in the training business, though, that trained me how to be better at answering phone calls. And they so impacted me about, wow, you can learn new things and a training person can connect with you and change your thinking that I just really took to those guys. I had them train my team when I became a manager. My team became the best out of the 3 teams. So training caught my interest really early. Then I went to work for a training company, got bought by Pat Ryan. And man, you want to talk about getting an education, right? I went into the Pat Ryan organization in 1990, learned their F&I process, learned how to be an F&I trainer, got to work on just really cool projects. By the year 2000, though, they were telling me I had to move from Phoenix back to Chicago. And I reminded them it snowed there. I go, I don't know about that moving back thing, right? So I went to work for another great car dealer. That's when I went back to retail. And again, bless his soul, he just passed in 2020, Tex Earnhardt, one of the incredible car people that have grown up in this industry, right? When I went to work there in 1999, we had 3 dealership locations with a 4th underway. Those 3 dealerships were selling 35,000 retail units a year. And I stayed there as their training director and then as their first corporate F&I director, Ted. And again, I just got to hang out and learn from really great people. After that, Ted, I gravitated back to helping humans, right? I went to work and became a partner at a company called Predictive Index, helping dealers all across the country. Got a little client called Nissan who then caused me to travel all around the world, sharing how dealers and manufacturers could understand the humans in their environment better. So all of that experience led me to where I am today with Quantum and a bunch of great people.
David, I didn't even realize what a great background and some big names that you've worked with firsthand. I heard I guess you'd say, rumors that you were involved in early work with both Chrysler One and Mercedes Star Mark. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, for sure, thanks to the relationships of Pat Ryan organization and what became the Resource Group, that organization was blessed that Chrysler chose them. If you remember back in 1992, the first time they said, we're going to make this program called Customer One, and we're not going to joke about CSI anymore, right? It was like, we're going to take this really serious. Dealership facilitators and boots on the ground. We also at Pat Ryan bought Keynote Automotive Company, which was an unbelievable early mega dealer group. And it was an early group that said, we have to have learning and development for our people. And they had these fabulous relationships with OEMs. And we got to work on the early Mercedes certified used car program called Star Mark. And again, just the culmination of all of those learnings around good people, great OEMs, has just been a big influence on me over the years.
Okay. Let's transition, Dave, to Quantum 5, to today, because I've heard so much about this app that you've got at Quantum 5 and this next generation. And I'm curious, what is it and what is it going to do for fixed operations?
Well, Ted, I believed that training was ready for a transition. For people like you and I who have traveled the country helping dealers, one of our greatest wishes always was, how do I replicate myself? How could I be at that store more frequently so that these people that I just helped could continue to have my help? Well, technology's caught up with it. So we created a three-pronged platform, right? We built first community, because I knew we could build the tech, but I didn't think automotive or anybody was ready to just be dropped in technology. Hey, here's an LMS, just keep learning stuff. You're on your own, see you later, bye, right? So I created these roles you see up here called a community manager. My community management team builds a relationship with our learners from the minute they graduated from a class. I built this job called a community architect, which is this person who visits the dealership and still reinforces in person. Okay. But then we did build this really cool technology that nobody's ever deployed before. It is the front face in our app, which is, what if learning could be fun? What if we could layer in some AI and know your performance? How many tires did you sell out of 30 customers, Ted? Right? What if I could layer in some AI that read that data and knew to get you some objection handling when people say, no, I think I'll buy them from Discount Tire. No, I think I'll go to the Goodyear store. What if I could help across the suite of your skills? And what if it was fun instead of this test or, video filmed 5 years ago? What if it could do all that was my what if questions, and we built it and it operates. And version 3.0 is launching now, today, while we're doing this, because I waited until March until we could deliver the absolute best 3.0 version to our dealers. So exciting to be here today. Your people are the first non of our dealers that are ever going to see what it looks like inside our 3.0 art and journeys.
And David, I think it's very smart because, as you and I discussed very recently, that most employees in a dealership, we've all got our phones in our hand. And really, rather than have to go to one computer or have one person take the test, we can learn in bite sizes right on our phone. And I think that's, Dave, what you've done is genius in order to be able to use the phone to help with the learning. So I'm really excited about how this is going to work and how it's going to help the dealerships that you serve.
We took a really novel approach to it, Ted. We took individual skills classes. See, we don't teach systems like you do. Dealers need the work that you do around systems and process and structure. What we focus on, Ted, is whether it's a BDC person, whether it's an advisor, whether it's a salesperson, or whether it's a manager in any part of the dealership. How do I get them to the skills for making processes work? So when you're teaching your people things, I look at it and I go, so how do I teach them to build great trust so that the processes go better? How do I teach them to build relationship? So we build a suite of courses and we teach them in dealerships, but they're all skill-based classes. But then what I built was fun. I built human-centric content, meaning I built it so that there's a play loop in it. I built it so that people look at it and they go, okay, wait a minute, this is kind of different. And we incorporated everything from questions to a card game. There'll be a collector card game in there that while you and I are together, there's some folks at NADA from my company that are handing out the collector card deck to our first clients, right? So there'll actually be real cards that people can play with. And I built in a reward structure for people inside there. So the experiences become compelling. How many automotive training companies have script writers? I got 2 of them. How many of them have storyboard artists, right? I got 2 of those. How many of them have an art team to go along with all the engineers and coders that make it all work, right? So I just looked at it different, Ted, and I got to tell you, it wasn't because I was smart. I looked at it different because a guy you've met who's been on Fixed Ops Roundtable with us is my co-founder and partner, a guy named Ken Herforth. And Ken's background led him exactly to where we needed him at the right moment. And that background is what enabled us to build all this art and game methodology into learning.
Dave, I'm excited. When you say art, I'd like you to show us if you would. And, I see a little bit behind you there. Kind of take us through it.
Yeah, as you see some screenshots from the app, you begin to see the difference in what we did, right? And what we did is we created an app that would have learning that people wanted to engage with that didn't have to be forced because it was compelling. So when you look at a screenshot here from an animated scene, this was uniquely created to be a scene in a dealership. And when you look at then our art, you go, holy cow, this kind of looks like the place I work. And it has environments in it. And I did put a clip in here for you. Let me play it for you of a scene that takes place of a customer who's asked about a new vehicle as he's having his vehicle serviced. So let me turn that up for you.
Hi, welcome to Quantum Motors. My name's JD, and you are? Hey JD, my name's Brennan. I'm here because I was out this weekend and my buddy has a really cool Raptor. I've never driven a Raptor before, I've always been a Chevy guy, and I gotta tell you, after driving the Raptor, I'm really curious if you guys have one. I wanna get my hands on one. I wanna drive it again. And I'd really like to get some questions answered after driving the vehicle.
All right, Brennan, come with me. We'll get you set up for a test drive and then talk through any questions you have.
So that was drawn by our lead animator, a guy named Gustavo. Gustavo lives in South America. And thanks to the virtual world we live in nowadays, right? I have an art team that comes from the likes of having worked for Marvel Comics, from the Forza game, which is Ben and his team in Vietnam. We have people who've worked for Disney. I'm so proud of David, who's the lead in our sound community. Ted, if you'd have said to me, hey, Dave, you're going to have one person that does nothing but sound. Well, you'll notice in the background of that video, you could hear an air wrench. You could hear phones ringing. You could hear the murmur of other people talking. So we spared no time, no expense in creating things that are not a chalkboard video, right? They're not images bought off Getty. And the response we've gotten is that it connects with the people in today's dealership. It makes them go, okay, wait a minute, this is kind of fun. And what they're learning while they're watching that, Ted, is the skills that move numbers in dealerships. Because by the way, I was really clear on this from the beginning. Ted, if we didn't move numbers, it wasn't going to matter. Training like this had to be accountable for doing as good as you do when you work with stores, right? It couldn't just be fluff. It had to be more. And and I'm so proud of what they've done.
And you're right, Dave. At the end of the day, it's all about profits for dealerships, right? I've heard from the dealers who have started using your app at Quantum 5 right now about their profit story. What kind of results do you want to share any right now with our audience today?
I put some of them up here for you because I'm proud of what our team has done. What our team has been able to do in this process is they've been able to set specific targets with dealers. So Ted, if you're our client, what we do very first is we sit down with you and we say, Mr. Ings, talk to us about the business metrics that you want to see better. Provide us the last 90-day average on those numbers. And our job is to be accountable to you on a monthly basis for making them better. So when we sat down with a large dealer group that is a publicly held group that gets mad at me if I use their name. So if I told you they started us with 6 stores and then they took us to 20, and in those 20 dealerships, if I said, the effective labor rate went up by $15 incrementally, but now by month 7 is up $15 in effective labor rate. And you then multiplied that across 1,800 average ROs at those stores.
Big
right?
numbers.
And you multiply by 20 stores, you know why they're sending us to another marketplace to take on another 30 stores.
Wow.
What I didn't expect, Ted, and I'm honest about it, right? What I didn't expect is to be able to tell you about as much CSI improvement. Across the network of our dealers right now, we don't have a single one we've worked with whose average CSI isn't better than when we got there. We've had some scary good results. For example, 67% of all the dealers we've worked with have had month-over-month consecutive increases every month since we got there. And the reason I think it's happening is because we've helped them have advisors know, how do I create true relationship with people? How do I create relationship that transitions to a phone call when I have to go over MPI results? How do I handle objections in a way that doesn't make people feel slapped around, right? And so it's been a huge part of our focus. We've also seen on the sales side dramatic changes in helping them create relationship during the digital part of their process. And because they're better able to create a relationship that creates trust with people, they go, these people are different. We see show up rates, which has been a very specific measure for a lot of our dealers. They're like, hey, I don't care about appointments. I care about appointments that show. Well, we see about a 75% show up rate on the appointments teams are making now as a result of being able to email differently, text differently, have phone calls happen differently. But again, we look at metrics that matter to the dealer and we say measure us. So whatever a dealer wants us to be measured against, we're not afraid because it's our job. It's the kind of stuff you and great training's always embraced.
Dave, there's nothing else like what you have right now on the market, and it's modern training from my modern sales and service workforce, because this is the kind of stuff that's going to be fun. They want to learn. They want to use it. I can see them using it, in their downtime, in their spare time. What is next for you, Dave O'Brien, and the Quantum 5 team that you've put together?
I got to tell you, the most exciting thing we're doing right now is the work Sarah Van Tine has put together on Service BDC. We're really close to coming back and sitting with you again, Ted, to tell you about a partnership with software that's going to take Sarah's training and word strategies for Service BDC to a place that also incorporates a software that will allow for voice over internet, remote agent management, and up to the minute ROI management on every RO that is in the shop because of an appointment made by your Service BDC. Sarah has put together an incredible opportunity for dealers who want to say, okay, I want retention. I want my customers to have great experiences. I want people not lost on hold. You put that whole package together and add in employees are hard to get. Some of them want to work remote. And now you have a software that will combine telephony with remote capability for a BDC manager. It is the most exciting thing we're working on, and we're not telling anybody when it comes out except Ted Ings. Well, we'll tell everybody else after we tell you.
All right. So I'm going to count on you to come back then and tell us about that as soon as that's ready, Dave. Dave, you're changing the face of retail learning. If our audience, not if, but when they want to get a hold of you, all right, to find out more about Quantum 5, find out more about the app, what you can do for their specific dealership, how do we get a hold of you, Dave O'Brien?
Yeah, I'm like the car dealer who still wants to answer his own phone calls, right? So you can call my phone at 480-452-6868, or you can go to the Quantum website, www.quantum5.ai, and ask for information. And Sarah and our team and myself, we'll be right on top of it. We're excited to help dealers with everything around retention, profit, loyalty, and unbelievable customer experiences.
David O'Brien has put together the entire package for you, everybody, at Quantum 5. It's available right now. Reach out to David, find out more, and hop on the train to success. So, David, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, thanks for all you do and Quantum 5.
Thank you, Ted. We're so glad to be here. See you soon.
Before our next guest arrives, I'd like to remind our viewers watching that our FixedOpsDonate.com link is now open, and we are asking for your help to put an end to blood cancers, as we are on a mission to raise $100,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We've had a full court press action today, but we are calling a timeout for our next guest. The true star of the show today is up next with his biggest fan. Please welcome Jude and Barb Anderson. So our next guest here is a special one and very near and dear to the Fixed Ops Roundtable community. I'd like to introduce Jude and his mom, Barb. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Good. How are you doing, Kara?
We're great. We're so happy that you guys are on here with us. And I can't wait to learn more about Jude's story and learn more about you guys' family as well.
All right. Well, we're excited to share Jude's story. Yes.
So Ted introduced me to you guys just recently, and I know a little bit about Jude's story and why we felt it important to put you guys on the Fixed Ops Roundtable and kind of, hear your testimony. So if you wouldn't mind, Barb and Jude, tell us a little bit about your background and why we've got you on here today.
Sure. Jude, do you want me to start? Yes. All right. So Jude here was diagnosed with leukemia when he was 18 months old at a well child checkup. He had nothing, no medical background, nothing. We just showed up for his well child check, and he had some bruising on his legs, and the doctor took a look and then ordered some blood work. And later that afternoon, I got the call that no parent ever wants to get. And they said to come to the hospital and that Jude was far too sick to go to the emergency department. So go straight to the oncology floor. From there, Jude endured 4 different rounds of really terrible chemotherapy. He finally got into remission, only to relapse about 1.5 years later. He then had to have a bone marrow transplant And then he relapsed after that. And that's when, if this had happened more than 10 years ago, there really weren't any options after that. But thanks to a new treatment called CAR T-cell therapy, he was able to get into remission again. And he had a second bone marrow transplant. And now he is 5 years cancer-free, and he will be 10 in April.
Wow. You're beating the odds there, buddy.
Yeah.
So you're about 10 years old now, right, Jude?
Yeah, about.
And as I was talking to you earlier, I can tell that he's very intelligent. I would have thought that he was much older than that, the way he was talking to us previously. You're a pretty smart guy.
I like books, so no.
Yeah. What grade are you in?
4th, and yeah.
Are you nervous?
No.
No?
Maybe a little.
Yeah.
So what do you like to do for fun, Jude?
I like to draw. I like to read. I like this book series called Demon Slayer. But
what kind of book? He likes anime?
Yes.
And he's learning Japanese right now.
Yes. Not that much, but
wow.
Like manga, you just say in Japanese as manga, and you don't even have to say if you're at Japanese restaurant. I struggle with that word a bit. You don't even have to say bento box, because if you say bento, it means boxed lunch. So you can say.
I did not know that.
A little bit of Japanese for everyone there.
There you go. That just justifies me telling everybody how smart he is. I don't know any Japanese, dude.
Thank you.
He also does. He's also doing hip hop dance lessons, and he likes to swim.
Wow, you do it all.
And taekwondo. So that's
wow.
That's karate. So.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Jude?
My options have changed quite a bit. It's hard. I may be a chemist. But yeah, maybe that.
And what else did you, at one point, didn't you want to be a nurse or a doctor?
Yes.
What makes you want to do that, Jude?
I don't know, just.
Well, maybe because of
everything. Because of everything that I've been through, I just kind of.
You want to help other people?
Yes.
This evening brings many people together, fully aligned with one common mission and vision.
The Light the Night event is an opportunity to celebrate survivors, to remember those who have been lost to cancer, and to recommit ourselves to the fight against cancer.
As a cancer survivor, I feel that Light the Night is very important. This event truly gives survivors hope.
When you see these survivors doing this walk, it shows you why you're here and why you need to continue to do better to find that next cure.
It was great to hear such inspiration from a young man that has continued to win at the game of life. I think it's safe to say that we are pumped up now for our next guest, Jade Terreberry from Kelley Blue Book.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is a great honor to share with you now one of our latest presenters here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Is Jade Terreberry, who is the Senior Director of Business Development at Kelley Blue Book. Jade, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks so much, Ted. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Hey, what a time to be, not just in our industry, Jade, but in the fixed operations of our industry. So much happening and exploding, and retailers are seeing a lot of those opportunities right now. What do you think?
Yeah, you bet they are, Ted. With the global chip shortages effect on new and used car inventory, prices, coupled with the fact that more and more people are back out driving, they're back in normal routines. They're putting more miles on their cars than they have in years. They're telling us they're going to put more miles on their car this year than they did in any of the years leading up to the pandemic. And so now is really the time for fixed operations to shine. And what shocks me every time I speak to dealers is they know there's no question that fixed operations is more than half of their overall dealership profitability. But in most cases, it's only 10% of their investment, 10% of their marketing spend. And it's sometimes only 5%. It's a small fraction of the focus within the store from an efficiency and effectiveness perspective. And when you think about the opportunity of the lifetime value of consumers, new car pre-sales, new car shortage that's causing more opportunity and more supply and demand imbalance in the used car space, the time is now. And you're going to hear me talk about market share a lot because market share matters. And that's where I would say, with the capacity demands and technician shortages, our clients have some big questions to answer over the next couple of weeks, months, and quarters to really determine who they're going to be and how they're going to play in this space, because the opportunity is right now.
You mentioned the chip shortage, and you're right. That is not going away from everything that I read anytime soon. And it looks like, we have in for us another year in store of dealing with that. And obviously that affects not just new vehicle sales, but everything that's happening in the pre-owned market as well, and parts. And of course, parts affect service. So I know as a consumer, when we entered initially, Jade, that season of COVID, I know I stopped driving as much as I typically do, right? And, simply because, where I live in the Northeast, there weren't many places open that I could go anymore. But what are you seeing out there right now at your vantage point in terms of, trends and the way consumers are driving and using their vehicles? What do you see?
Ted, so we are seeing the pent-up demand continuing to release, especially in the fixed op space, especially on the recall front. So you have a handful of factors. You have more than a third of consumers that, again, telling us they're going to drive more miles now than they did pre-pandemic. We have almost half of consumers saying that they're going to be back out for these spring breaks and summer vacations, and they're going to be using their cars as opposed to other means of travel like airplanes. You have this recall pent up demand that is unlike anything we've ever seen. In fact, I was looking at some numbers yesterday, and record breaking numbers in January for recall checks on Kelley Blue Book, over 350,000 recall checks. And one of the interesting things that we're seeing there is a year and a half ago, as soon as the pandemic set in, you had more recalls than you ever had in years leading up, but nobody was exercising on them. Nobody was getting those recalls fixed. And so that is just starting to happen. And so these recall checks that are now resulting in consumers going into dealerships, what we see is that depending on the brand, between 40 and 60% of those recalls getting exercised are first-time visitors to the on-brand store where they're exercising that recall. And then of the others, most of those folks, that other anywhere from 40 to 60% that had been in that store before, it's been more than a year since they've been there. And so when you start thinking about the way consumers are making this shift to online research, online tools to compare and take action and schedule service, it really tells you that dealers have to rethink that 10% of budget doesn't mean that you have to spend more, but it does mean that you have to be there to connect with consumers in the way they want to connect. Because if not, that's where your market share is starting to go down. You can grow it right now like crazy, or you can really miss the boat on what's coming in the future. And having those consumers coming through your service drive is one of the most powerful things that's going to set you up for success in the future on the variable ops side.
You're right. And it's been a real trickle down effect from the lack of new vehicle inventory to the shift in when that consumer first comes in to the service drive for that first service visit. And if a lot of folks have not in the past been, in the last year or two, been driving as much, and you're right, the passenger vehicle, Jade, I think right now is probably at a premium because we realize the importance of, being able to have that that space, that safety of my own vehicle. Let's talk a little bit about the revenue opportunity for fixed operations. What are you seeing, for dealerships who are watching right now? What are you seeing as the profit centers and the areas that dealers should be focusing on this year?
Sure. So because today's consumers online now more than ever, they expect these online options to be available for all of their needs, including service. They're researching and they're comparing automotive service providers, but they're looking for this online scheduling, service pickup and delivery, fair and transparent pricing. And our industry is just in this midst of a digital revolution. And so dealerships can give their service departments a competitive advantage by really jumping in and adopting some of the right tools and strategies. And Ted, I've heard you say it a lot, but technology matters now. Finding efficiencies in processes is huge. And you're going to talk a lot about that, the other segments of the roundtable this week. But, having just 10 to 15% of your marketing investment on service is totally okay. But you have to be sure that you're focusing on the right digital strategies. And our clients need to be focusing on things that are trackable, be where consumers want to be. And that means replacing things like maybe mailers or mass email blasts that agencies have done on their behalf, Valpak coupons. There are now plenty of opportunities to make sure their website, their Google My Business, their social media pages are up to date. They're offering these real-time service specials, and they're recognizing that people aren't waiting 5, 6, 7 weeks to book those service appointments just because their capacity and their bays are full. They're going to do it right now on their schedule and their time with somebody who can service them right this minute. And so, being hyper specific with your advertising and targeting some of the big ticket items, brakes, tires, batteries, engine work, through paid search and social campaigns, you've got to really look and understand if those things are working. And so I would say just increasing your service department's reach by tapping into these digital marketplace offerings is so important, as well as understanding the role that your used car department plays within your fixed ops overall profitability, because efficiency is key. And so even though you asked me to talk about revenue streams specifically, what I'm actually going to focus more on is where they're losing efficiencies because they're moving a little too fast. And so what I find in so many of these conversations with clients is we're trying to really understand how we shorten that from a 5-week or 4-week window that they're booking. But what I see is they're moving so fast, especially in the used car space, who in most cases, many cases, is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, revenue stream for their fixed ops department, but they're trying to get cars out the door faster. They may have taken advantage of the fact that used cars have been easier to sell in the last year or two because of that supply and demand equation that we all know so well. But ultimately, there's some corners that are being cut, and it's putting a lot of stress on fixed ops departments, these cars that they're selling, and then they're coming back in because maybe they didn't take quite the time, or they're reconditioning and trying to PDI vehicles so fast when they get off the truck because all those new cars are pre-sold and they're forgetting the floor mats. And so I would just say the revenue streams that you have as a dealer are there. You know what they are. Their customer pay, their recall, their warranty, their maintenance, their parts, and they are your used car department. And you've got to really lean in and find those efficiencies and refine your processes, because one of the things that we've seen even on the X-Time and iRecon side is when tools are used, and you can even do simple things like, where the keys are. You're not spending an extra 2 minutes looking for keys every time somebody needs to go from a service writer back to a technician. Those 2 minutes, when you're doing thousands and thousands of ROs in a month, they add up and they can create huge opportunity for profit or loss.
I love it. And some of the things that you mentioned, Jade, and we're hearing a lot about them at the roundtable: price transparency, and the online, the digital. It's here, it's now, and you've got some great tools, for dealers to be able to use. But what would you say? Because a lot of dealerships right now, their service bays are at capacity, and like you said, they may be booked out for weeks, maybe even longer than that, right? Should those dealers be investing in these strategies right now?
Yeah, it's all about efficiency. I'll say it again and again: efficiency and market share, efficiency and market share. And so, those dealers who are at capacity and can't get to everyone who wants to service with them, I would tell them they can either be okay with it, or they can find a way to overcome the challenges they're facing, because the market share that they gain or lose today will be the same market share that they have or that they do not have on the fixed op side a year from now, 2 years from now, and beyond. And so this online transition that is happening so fast, in fact, we see it accelerating. It's happening 10 to 20 times faster than what it did on the digital retailing side, which was like a 5 to 10 year consumer adoption window. And so COVID accelerated that. And so this demand for efficient digital processing for servicing vehicles, for dealers who choose not to adopt these tools, not to figure out how to retain the staff that they have, recruit new staff to keep those bays open, to keep scheduling quickly. They are simply saying, I'm okay with the guy next door, the guy down the street, not only taking this oil change, but taking the lifetime value that this consumer potentially has for my dealership. And there is a way, and it's a decision that every dealer needs to make right now. Open bays, stay open longer, pay the people that you have, pay them well. Do not be afraid to invest in your people. Incentivize them to recruit. We all know technicians. They talk to each other. They're a tight-knit group in most cities, small or large. They know people that are in the same business they are because they play with their cars on weekends when they're not at the dealership. And so you've got to be creative. Think about it like starting a new business. And you've got to go out and you've got to recruit. You've got to find good people. You've got to keep them. And you can really organically train people in this space. Take your reconditioning guys. Teach them how to be oil tech. I mean, there are all kinds of opportunities, but it's just a decision that you have to make. And bottom line is, if you don't make it now and you don't capture this market share now, and you don't have these consumers moving through your service base, they're not going to wait until you're ready. They're going to be servicing with somebody else.
And Jade, consumers are dialed into the technologies that you offer. As a consumer myself, I have gone online to Kelley Blue Book, and I have looked up because I had a vehicle that I recently traded. But when I went onto the service drive, they leveraged that service experience like we're talking about now, and they offered me an evaluation on my vehicle, to which I was so happy to learn it was worth $10,000 more than it was just a year ago, right? But I've experienced it. How else can dealers right now, because I think we're at a critical time, leverage those opportunities that you're talking about right now in fixed operations?
Yeah, you got it. So I'll say again, it's not about the single oil change. It's about this lifetime value potential of every customer that they've gained. And since we know new inventory is tight, that's not going to change anytime in the next couple of months. Used car prices are high. People are delaying their purchases in a lot of cases, and they're focusing instead on maintaining their current cars. And so they may also be ready to trade in that current car when they see those valuations. And so these online tools that give consumers the ability to compare and have transparent pricing on the service that they have, tools that give them an opportunity to see that some of these independent service centers, they don't have a price advantage on our franchise stores. That's a big misconception that exists with consumers, where, I think this big flow of consumer traffic into online digital marketplace tools like KBB's, fair repair pricing, and featured auto repair center experience, where now we're seeing 2.5 million consumers a month moving through that portal. That's over two times the amount of traffic and this happened very organically. But 2 times more than when the pandemic set in. And the things that we're seeing them doing, again, it's looking at the recall opportunities, but it's giving them an opportunity to look at the bigger picture of the vehicles sitting in their garage. So it's not just that oil change, that service, that recall, but it's how much is my car worth? Is it the right time for me to trade? Is it the right time for me to hold on to it? Do I have an opportunity to lock in a pre-sale on a new car? Who do I want to do business with? What kind of experience do I want to have? How much of this do I want to do online? And so the bottom line is, this multi-pronged revenue approach that is so important to our clients' business, they also have to be thinking about giving consumers that multi-pronged approach to how they want to take all of these actions and connect with them.
Jade, you folks make it easy for dealers, okay, to leverage that technology. If our audience today, I know some folks are with Cox Automotive, some are thinking about, coming on board with a lot of the tools and brands that you've got. If they want to reach out to you and find out more, and get some of their questions answered as well, Jade, what's the best way to get more information and to reach out?
Sure, Ted. So they can reach out to me directly anytime. My email is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I'm available on LinkedIn, direct message me. But if they have questions specifically about any of these products, about how to structure this multi-pronged marketing approach and strategy for their fixed operations department, reach out to their Kelley Blue Book rep. These are the pros. They do this all day, every day, and they will really take a look at the entire dealership and fixed op side of the business and the dollars that our clients are spending and help them structure a custom plan that works in their market. We have so much data at our fingertips. It's really our biggest competitive differentiator, but ultimately to show them where's their market share today, where do they want to be, and then what are the tools and steps that are going to help them get there. So I look forward to hearing from your audience, and thank you so much, Ted. It was great talking to you today.
Jade, thank you. And Kelley Blue Book is the leader and leading the way in our industry. And what a great brand and great brand recognition and so much innovation happening on that side. Jade Terreberry, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Ted.
Dealers rely on service revenue to stay profitable, but with 71% of consumers defecting from their dealership's service bays by the 5th year of ownership, dealers are not only losing service revenue, but also the opportunity for the consumer's next car purchase. And as vehicles become more complex, consumers are uncertain about how to care for their car and are looking for guidance on their key service and repair questions. The Service and Repair Guide on KBB.com provides consumers with the trusted information they need to make confident decisions about service and repairs, then connects them with featured auto repair centers that can do the work. With an average of 1.7 million consumers turning to KBB.com each month for trusted service and repair guidance, becoming a Kelley Blue Book featured auto repair center gives you the clear advantage. As a participating dealer, you'll have the ability to advertise your service department and connect with local consumers who are already searching for service and repair guidance on KBB.com. Capture service appointments from consumers looking to schedule maintenance and repairs with a dealership featured on KBB.com. Build greater consumer confidence and trust through your association with the #1 most trusted third-party automotive brand, Kelley Blue Book. Give your service department the competitive edge it needs to drive more customers to your service bays and boost your fixed ops revenue. Become a featured auto repair center on KBB.com today.